All right, welcome back to another episode of Three and Out. I am your host, Ryan Kieran. With me tonight is Keegan, and Pat Lane will be joining us in a few minutes. As always, Pat, with the fatherly responsibilities, got a little tied up. He'll be here in a couple minutes. Keegan, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Got a week off. Nothing to do. I'm real excited about it.
Love it. Everyone congratulate Keegan, recent college grad, finished up his last class the other day. So send him the invites and give him a job.
Give me a job. That's all I'm looking for.
So some scheduling notes here. We're getting towards the end of the regular season, both in the show and in actual football. So we have 2 weeks left of the trivia regular season here. We're going to do this tonight, and then we're going to have a show next week. And after those shows, we're going to get into the tournament. So the tournament's going to be, 4-person bracket. It'll be Keegan, Pat, Brian, Spags. There will be one matchup per week. So we're in the show for week 14 right now. Week 15 will end the regular season. 16 will be semifinal matchup 1. 17 will be semifinal matchup 2. And then week 18, which ends the regular season, will be the championship matchup. And then 3 and out's done for the year. We're not going to do playoffs. We'll probably go live with, recap or preview shows as the Patriots advance, but there won't be 3 and outs anymore. So we got about 5 weeks left of the show for this year. I appreciate everyone who's been watching. If you're new tonight, welcome. It's not too late. We got congrats in the chat here for Keegan.
Thank you.
So, ride with us for the last month here, and, we'll have fun with it, and we'll be back for next year for sure. We'll have off-season content. We'll have playoff content. So if you're not following twitch.tv/Pat's Pulpit, Pat's_Pulpit, or our YouTube channel, which you can find at Pat's Pulpit, go ahead and do all of that because we're building up the streams here. We're getting shows going.
It's draft season already.
It's already draft season,
Yeah.
Mock draft show will hopefully be coming back this off season. We'll get it going. All right, let's get into it. First down here, Keegan. The Buffalo Bills are bad.
Yeah. Well, they're the most one-dimensional team of all time. I think it's fair to say.
They have a quarterback explicitly designed to throw in a win, but there was enough wind that he even really couldn't successfully throw it. He played a great game. Given the conditions, that was probably one of the 2 best games he's played against the Patriots when you factor conditions into it.
Absolutely.
But they are able to do one thing, and if they can't do that one thing, they're not winning football games.
Yeah, it's so I talked about it all leading up to the week where I thought Buffalo is just a better football team, and this is such a big game for them, and they've had time to prepare. I thought Buffalo was going to win, and then at like 6:00 on Monday night, seeing everything, and everybody knew. I think we all tweeted something to the effect of the Patriots are going to run the ball a million times tonight.
Yep.
I did. I'm sure you did. Everybody did. And around 6:00, my mind changed. I was like, this game, if Bill Belichick could pick the factors that would go around a football game, that's the environment that he would pick it to be in.
Right.
And it worked out perfectly for the Patriots. They were able to successfully do what they're able to do and kind of force Buffalo to try and do what they absolutely cannot do, which is run the football.
And I want to talk first and foremost about the idea that the Patriots game plan worked because Buffalo kept shooting themselves in the foot, which they absolutely did. Don't get me wrong. But if you look at the drives and how they played out, I would say Buffalo deserved to score approximately 10 points in this game. They just got the 10 points on the wrong drives. Tyler Bass missed the field goal. Stefon Diggs, I wouldn't call it a drop because the wind played with it, but Josh Allen drops a dime into the wind that ends up going off Stefon Diggs' forearm after he toasted Juwan Williams. So you take those, I would even say maybe 13 points, giving them another field goal in the mix there. But their touchdown was off N'Keal Harry headbutting a punt. And then their field goal came off of the Miles Bryant late hit. They just said personal foul. They didn't even give a definition for it. They just said, Buffalo gets 15 yards here.
It was a gift.
It was one of the worst penalty calls I've ever seen in my life. Those were their 2 scoring drives. They didn't deserve scoring those drives. So you take those, if you're talking about what they deserved, take those points off the board. They probably make them up in the drives that they left hanging. But you're still looking at approximately the same game here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also you take the factors in any football game, and
exactly.
And
if something didn't happen, something else would have happened.
Right. Things tend to find their balance. Like water finds its level, you know. And like I said, all the factors went into this game, helped the Patriots out, which people might hate me for saying that, but it's true. they
Absolutely.
were kind of gifted a couple of things that put them, gave them a head start in the game, I would say.
Yep.
But what they did do was prove everybody right and kind of stake their claim as the team that runs the football and plays really good defense, and is unlike any other team in the NFL. I think you can say, like, they don't throw the ball a million times. They're not forced to do something with the weather. Another team can't really force them into doing something that they don't want to do. They control the game. They control the tempo. They control time of possession, which Brian hates when I bring that up, but they control that. On defense, they're able to make stops when they need to. That everything that you thought about the Patriots before the game, I think you probably think the same way, or even more. You're even more convinced about it after what we saw on Monday.
Yeah. The two big things that is, so obviously, they're not going to play or probably not playing Buffalo again in, tropical storm level winds. So there is a lot that you can throw out of this game and say, like, cool, we got the win, now let's forget about it, because it really doesn't mean much. There are two things, or one thing that I do take away moving forward, and then one thing that I think people are drawing conclusions from this game that I don't necessarily agree with. See my dog in the background making one of her 3-and-out debuts. What you doing, Maya? What you doing? Come here. Hi. You got the
Legend.
zoomies, huh? So what I think we can take away from this game is that the Patriots are just going to dominate the Bills on both sides of the line of scrimmage in any condition. In the next game, they're not going to be seeing 9-man boxes, and they're probably not going to be going 6 offensive linemen, a tight end, and a fullback, running every single play. But man for man, helmet to helmet, they dominated the line of scrimmage on offense, and they pretty handily won the line of scrimmage on defense as well. Josh Allen was consistently under pressure. The Devin Gottschall has best game as a Patriot, maybe the best game of his career. They were dominated. They couldn't. The Bills are not a running team anyway, but they couldn't get anything going on the ground for the most part. The lack of design runs for Josh Allen in a night like that was really confusing. A lot of people have talked about that. But in the next game they play, that dominance, in any given game it could flip. But that is something that you feel comfortable taking away from this game, in my opinion. That you should win the line of scrimmage battle on both sides of the ball, which is always a recipe for success.
Yeah, for a team that kind of has staked their claim on that, I didn't really think they could do it all that well prior to Monday. Not that they couldn't establish the line of scrimmage and be dominant on the ground, but I didn't think they were consistent enough with it. Early in the year, they couldn't stop the run, at all. Nope. And we saw glimpses where against teams like the Chargers, you would think that they were going to be able to run all over them because the Chargers had a terrible run defense. They couldn't. They had to kind of throw the ball in that game. They had to shy away from what they planned on doing. Yep. I didn't think they were consistent enough. So I think it's really interesting to see, they showed at their best what they can be in terms of their identity on the ground, establishing line of scrimmage, like you said. Next week, though not this upcoming week, but the week after, when they go to Indianapolis, it's another game like that where that's what that team is trying to do. So You're two teams who are built the same way, same identity. Now you kind of have to do it against somebody who's good at all of the same things you're good at, not the worst team in the league at them. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This was an aberration in terms of just straight up your styles of play gelled for you to be successful.
This was the first week where I had full confidence in the Patriots going into it against a good team and their outlook for the season. I've been the slowest to their train in terms of long-term season outlook. This was the first week before all the weather stuff. I can't remember if on the show last week I predicted a win, but I know by Saturday I was on board thinking they were going to win. And it's just immediately gone away because I don't know why I do not feel good about facing Indy in a couple weeks. I don't feel good about it at all.
No,
they're an 8 seed right now, and they terrify me.
I was on a podcast on Sunday night, less than 24 hours before the game, and I was like, yeah, they're going to lose the next 2 games. I do not feel confident about their chances against. It
doesn't even really have anything to do with the Colts. I don't know why, because I don't like Carson Wentz. Michael Pittman's a beast, but he's their only receiving
Right.
threat. Jonathan Taylor is great, but that's the type of player that they generally are more successful
Shut
than the
down.
rest teams about. And then their defense turns the ball over, but doesn't really do much else. And this offense is built around not turning the ball over and picking up yards when they're given, which is what that defense allows. So
yeah, sometimes you just get a bad feeling about a game. I
have a terrible feeling about it.
It's hard to explain, but that's the thing I always say. There's a human element to football where it's like, oh God, I don't want to play those guys. That's a tough whatever it is. I don't like the vibes that it's giving.
Yeah. And
but
you're both coming out of bye week. It's a Saturday night game. It's gonna feel like a playoff game.
Everything is setting up for America is gonna pick the Patriots.
Yeah.
Whatever pregame show Fox or whatever station it's on is doing, the panel's going to pick the Patriots. Yeah. It's just one of those games. And then the Patriots are going to go out and they're going to lay an egg.
You know, in like the NBC things where they have everyone who's ever worked on the show do their picks. Yeah. And then Mike Tirico always makes jokes about gaming it to win to get his best record. Yeah. There'd be like two of them that picks the Colts talking about how dominant Jonathan Taylor's been. And then everyone's picking Patriots. But
yeah, and I believe in dominant running game. Jonathan Taylor I think he's one of 3-4 running backs in the league that
matter.
That matters. Yeah, that
especially if you're restricting it to exclusively on the ground.
That's what I was going to say. I think he's maybe one of two. It's him and Derrick Henry that do it on the ground.
Yeah.
The other two guys, I'd say Kamara and maybe McCaffrey when he's not hurt.
I was thinking Austin Eckler.
Eckler.
I would say those four. McCaffrey has been like a volume type of guy for the most part.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's been 2 years since he's been himself, so you can't really draw conclusions. But Eckler's a good one. Anyways, 4 running backs in the league that matters, and this is one of them.
Right.
But also you say that, and it's like, Bill Belichick's gonna have a plan. He's gonna know exactly.
It's like they're completely different players, but like Steelers, Le'Veon Bell, like prime Le'Veon Bell. Nothing. They had great offensive lines. Le'Veon Bell was in his bag. He was like my favorite player in the league at that point, and he never did anything against the Patriots.
Those
are the type of players you have faith in them taking away.
That opening game in 2015, the Deion Lewis game, when everybody was like, "Who the hell's Deion Lewis?" I think Le'Veon Bell had more receiving yards and rushing yards.
My dad.
And it was like, you always knew, but Le'Veon Bell had like 50 yards in that game, and it was like prime. Number 1 running back in the league, Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. But so this is the kind of guy that they can shut down. Carson Wentz sucks. He's not good. No. Michael Pittman is their best receiver, and he's like, I don't know.
The one concern there is that I don't want to talk too much about it because we'll be talking about it again next week. But the one concern there is those bigger jump ball type of receivers, and Michael Pittman's turning into like a do everything receiver. But I'd say his calling
he
card
played in the slot last year. Like he does everything.
I'd say his calling card is winning. At the point of attack. Especially downfield. Those are like the type of corner or type of wide receivers that J.C. Jackson does struggle with a little bit. Devontae Parker is the prime example. I brought that up a bunch this year. So that does concern me a tiny bit, but outside of that, it's just a general bad feeling. But let's get back to the Bills game a little bit. The take that I see everyone throwing out there that I don't take away from this is that the Patriots clearly don't feel. Not that they don't have faith in Mac, but this was a telling game about how they think of his arm, right? I don't really fully agree with that because if there's any team in the league that's going to stick to a game plan that they feel is best without really having an implication on anything else, it's the Patriots.
Yep.
They saw that they could win this game running the ball and they stuck with it. And I don't think that necessarily means that they don't think that Mac could. I personally don't think throwing with Mac in that type of game was a great idea, especially against the wind. I don't think he has an arm that can do that. But I don't think that necessarily means that that's what they think. And if they were in another situation like this, that it would go that way again. Or even if they were losing this game, that they wouldn't have thrown it or that he wouldn't have been capable of throwing it.
Yeah, that's another factors thing. I know it was even time, obviously, because each team gets 2 quarters with and without the wind. Right. It felt like the Patriots were playing against the wind 90% of the time.
Yeah, it felt like when the Bills were against the wind also died down a little bit.
Yeah, it was wild.
Especially in the fourth quarter.
And the Patriots, Sean McDermott lost his mind about it. But the Patriots' starting field position was at the 23, I think, on average, and Buffalo's was at the 40. Yeah, obviously, Buffalo's going to feel more comfortable throwing around midfield than the Patriots would be backed up inside their own 20.
Yep.
That's another factor situation. And the way I think about it when I'm trying to compare those things, like if Brady was still here and they played in the same game, how many times would Brady have thrown the ball? I'd say 10.
I was going to say 12, yeah.
Yeah, like 10 to 12. Is that really all that big of a difference? And then you take the factor in that they scored that long touchdown after 2 3-and-outs, I think, and then they scored the long touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you would think, like, you go 3-and-out on 3 straight drives, you got to start throwing the ball. You don't really have a choice. They kind of killed that.
Yep.
So everything that went into it kind of killed that. I think the plan probably, like, if we were to say how many times you want to let Mac throw it today, the plan was probably 8 to 10 times. Like,
right.
Let's not let him throw it too much. Don't let him make a mistake. But everything else that went into it kind of killed that because they controlled the game all the way on the ground. So why would you go away from it?
Right. Completely agree. Let's talk a little statistics here. Since they're on the screen, Mac Jones was 2 of 3 for 19 whole yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks, 84.0 passer rating. Patriots, I took out the Mac rushing yards because that includes kneel downs, obviously. They ran 41 times for 225 yards, which is 5.5 yards per carry. I don't have the exact box numbers, but they were almost always playing against at least 8-man boxes, usually 9, sometimes 10. More often than not, you could see all 11 guys from the broadcast view, which is just unheard of.
Especially when the offense has everybody like tight inside because the camera gets tighter and you could still see everybody.
Exactly. So it was just a dominant ground game for the most part here. And that's, again, something that is going to carry over. They're not going to run it 41 times in 3 weeks. They're also not going to have 8 blockers, but they're also not going to be seeing 10 defenders. So I think everything kind of comes out in wash there, and you can expect that the running game is still going to have its way. Ed Oliver is the pass rusher that you maybe think could have a better game in a more balanced situation. But outside of that, they don't have like premier pass rushers that were neutralized by this either, really. So I feel confident that the line moving forward is going to be completely fine, or is going to perform to a similar level.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And we've talked about it on our show, and the Twitter discourse has been ridiculous about Ted Karras and why is he playing over Michael Onwenu. And I think without knowing anything, I don't know a single thing. I don't know anybody in the building. It just seems like they communicate a lot better with him out there. Like Isaiah Wynn knows what he's doing, because watching the film by myself, I don't know anything, guys, but watching it, it's like Isaiah Wynn knows what he's doing. He knows where he's going. He doesn't make as many false steps as he did when Onwenu was in there. He's kind of like, here's my spot. I'm going to get to it, and I'm going to, do whatever I need to do. And then in a game like this, where you've got Ted Karras, who by all accounts is like this great communicator, great leader, smart guy. And then you've got N'Keal Harry and Jonnu Smith on his left side, like killing people on these crackdowns and then you get Isaiah Wynn out into space. I think this game really showed, like, Isaiah Wynn's the guy that I noticed, because it really showed that he's at his best when it's here's what you're doing, or we're going to get you out into space and we're going to let you it's like a running back. Let him create, get him out in space. He gets to pick somebody and go kill him, or he gets to match up with a moving linebacker and kind of do a dance with him or something. I noticed that. I would say I kind of went off on a tangent, but when you've got guys like Isaiah Wynn, who didn't play great earlier in the year, when he looks really good, Ted Karras, if you don't hear Ted Karras' name, then it's a good thing. Like, that's all you ask for out of that guy. David Andrews is phenomenal. Shaq Mason was born for games like that. Yeah. Georgia Tech guy, he threw that many times in his entire college career. So he's used to it. And then Trent Brown is 5 feet taller than everybody else on the field. So I think the offensive line is going to be okay in games like this moving forward if they have to run the ball a million times.
All right, Pat is with us. Pat's got the playoff beard coming in already. Pat, how are we doing tonight, pal?
Good. How are you?
Good.
That's good.
All right, so let's give me your. We've pretty well dissected the Bills game at this point, but give me your thoughts on it, and then we'll get into some segments here.
I mean, it's unbelievable, right? I've never seen a game like that before. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a game where they throw the ball 3 times total. Right. It just certainly in an NFL game. But here's what I'll say, okay? And this is, I always find this stuff interesting, but like, go back to 2014, right? Malcolm Butler gets the interception in the end zone, and Oh yeah, that's right. Little Edelman. It's coming, man. It's coming. But go back to 2014. Edelman, Malcolm Butler gets the interception at the goal line, right? If he doesn't pick that pass off and the Seahawks score, we're looking at that game saying the Patriots blew it. They didn't play well enough in the first half. The Seahawks are a dynasty. They just beat, Manning and Brady in back-to-back seasons, blah, 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 right? Instead, he gets that interception and Brady wins MVP, deservedly so, of course. But the Seahawks dynasty is dead and everything else, right? Like all that stuff happens because of that play. Miles Bryant makes that play last play of the game, right? If he doesn't make that play, that's a touchdown pass. Mm-hmm. And not to mention Adrian Phillips on third down. But, he doesn't make that play. Okay, fine. The Patriots had the ball with 2 minutes left to go in the game. The Patriots had negative 10 yards in the fourth quarter before that final drive. Mac ended up getting negative 8 yards because he was trying to kill the clock out, right? But so they ended up negative 18 for the fourth quarter. If they lose that game and can't score in the fourth quarter, then all of a sudden the story of that game isn't the Patriots dominated the Bills. It's the Patriots dominated the Bills for 3 quarters and then couldn't close them out, and the Bills won anyways. And so
that's what we've seen our pal Brian kind of harping on in general on Twitter this week anyway.
Right. And I just think the narrative there is interesting because the results outweigh what actually happened so much. And even if they had lost that game, you turn around and say what they did for 3 quarters was unbelievable without really throwing the ball. But then you could second guess it and say, well, why weren't they throwing the ball, when it clearly wasn't working in the fourth quarter, right? So that's you'd be playing the second guessing game instead of saying Belichick's the greatest coach in the history of the NFL, right? Which he obviously is, but it's one of those things for me. So I think that part of it is interesting. That's something that not a lot of people are talking about. But again, it comes back to 2014 where it's Malcolm Butler saves that game, and it's like, well, if he doesn't get the interception and they lose, the narrative is completely different, right? And the franchises, the two franchises are completely different. So it's really interesting.
And that is the one part. I as a former youth running back, I always have a love for football. It's the correct way to play the game. But I was surprised to see that this might be Bill Belichick's best game plan since the Giants Super Bowl, that defensive one that he had. Or, this was a masterclass. I was a little surprised by that, to see media talking through that, because I don't think that that's what it was. I think that it was a semi-questionable game plan, and the players performed it great.
Well, I think
that's incredibly encouraging when you're talking about a team that's probably one of the 5 most talented in football on the other side, in the Bills, that you had a game plan that worked until it didn't, and your players were talented enough to finish it off when the game plan wasn't working.
I think the biggest thing that it shows to me about Belichick, and we know this already, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. No. It doesn't matter to him. Nothing's going to faze him. So win or lose, it's like, this is what we're doing. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, okay, fine. But no one's going to question me because this is what I do. You want to question me? Fine, go ahead. But you'll be talking to air because I don't care. And that to me is that this was that personified, where he's like, great, I'm gonna run the ball every damn play. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Yep. And so that's the one for me where it's kind of like, that's what it shows more than anything else, that it was obviously a great coaching job. They did a great job stuffing them defensively, and they did enough offensively. And that's what it comes down to,
You could tell he was on one on Monday, because the first thing he said to the team was, "That's why we practice in this shit."
Right.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I know what I'm doing.
This was his "I know my shit" moment.
After Buffalo supposedly practicing the dome all week.
Right.
I mean, what the hell are they doing? You get that.
By the way, Bills beat reporters hate the Bills. They hate that team.
My favorite development of this year is Marcel Louis-Jacques, who is a great beat reporter for the Bills. He covers the Dolphins now. It's just him just shitting on Buffalo every chance he gets now they lose in Miami. It's beautiful. Bills fans get so upset on Twitter.
He's the best.
I'll tell you what, man. That team is like mentally broken, because the Patriots were your daddy forever. You're supposed to have the division, and Tommy Curran said it for the whole week leading up to it about how they thought they had the division on lock, and now all of a sudden they don't. But New England goes in there and punks you in your own stadium, right? Basically says, we're just going to run it on every single play and you're not going to stop us. And they don't, and they win the game. And now you have to go to Tampa and play Tom flippin' Brady, who's 32-3 against you.
I was going to say, I think I'll allow myself to retroactively agree with your take if they come out and then get smoked by Brady and then lose to the Patriots again.
Yes.
A couple weeks later. But I think that's something that's, great in theory until they come out and they end up beating the Bucs.
And that's the thing. This week to me is their season because they're going to go one of two ways. Either because the coach was pointing fingers, the players were pissed off, yelling at the media. Like that team is in shambles right now. You respond one or two ways. You either rally up.
Poyer and Hyde had every right in the world to hate that guy. Apparently, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah,
and always has been.
He's a super old dude. Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, and like to ask
the phrasing of that question sucks.
Yeah.
No, the phrasing of that question.
The way you asked that question, as a journalism graduate, I know my shit. No, but like that's like what they teach you not to ask somebody after they just lost a football game by playing the worst game they ever have in their entire lives.
And it's
Are you embarrassed?
You never ever say that. It's just unnecessary. Like you don't do that. But
Kyle Van Noy, who is like the ultimate troll, and he picks a side because he knows the fans are gonna like it. Like that's what Kyle Van Noy does. Even he on Quick Slants was like, "Yeah, he shouldn't ask a question like that. That was kind of rude." Like,
But my point is this, right? Is that you're either going to go one or two ways. Either you're going to turtle from this, or you're going to rally around each other and come out with your hair on fire. And I think that this weekend tells me a lot. If they go down to Tampa and get smoked by the Bucs down there, they might be done. Like they might be done, completely done. But if they go down there and win,
let me set the table real quick, Pat, and then we're gonna move on to the segments just because we're already half an hour in at this point.
Yeah.
But so if Buffalo goes down and loses to Tampa, like you're talking about, you're 2 games up in the division with 4 games to play, and you're guaranteed. I believe the Bills have a chance to win the tiebreaker if they win out in the division because you lost to Miami. I believe that's how that would work. But you're not effectively a game back because you've lost to Buffalo because you beat Buffalo. So if they lose to Tampa and you split with Indy and then Buffalo again, there's no excuse not to win the division from there.
Agreed.
Because
for sure.
You'll be 2 games up if they lose to Tampa. So as long as you can give up one, you can lose to the Bills, you can lose to Indy. You can't lose both, most likely, because the Bills have a very easy schedule going out. But then you finish with Jacksonville, you finish with Miami. So as long as you don't go 0-2 coming out of the bye week, you should win the division. Assuming again,
I think even if they do, you'd probably still have it because it might go to conference record. And if it does, then you'd be all set.
Right. I don't
unless it goes to might go to division record, and then you might not have
division,
it.
But I'll look it up real quick.
Then you'd have 2 losses in the division if you lost to Buffalo, assuming.
Right.
You know what I mean? By the way, Matt, I'm just drinking nothing crazy. It's just half and half. That's all. A little Arnold Palmer, non-alcoholic Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. So the second is best win percentage in games played within the division. So I think the Bills have the track there because.
They only lost to the Patriots, right? And that's it.
Right. They've only lost to the Patriots. You lost to Miami. So if they beat you, and I think they still play the Jets again, they win out from here.
Right. So you could lose to Indy and still have that tiebreaker, but you couldn't lose to Buffalo and still have that tiebreaker. So that's
you can boil it down even more. If the Bills lose to the Bucs and then you beat the Bills, you win the division because that puts you 3 games up. With 3 other games left to play, and you have the tiebreaker over.
Imagine Buffalo here, hat and T-shirt game. Yep. Buffalo in New England, probably 425 is probably going to get flexed.
Yeah,
and it's a hat and T-shirt game. Woo!
I'm kind of. I don't want that.
We were talking earlier. Well, I'm not going to read. I'm not going to backtrack so we can move on. But here, so let's move into second down here. We got some fun segments here where we don't have a preview, obviously, as it's a bye week. We'll talk. Keegan and I talked about the indie game a little bit. We'll really get into it next week, the next show. So we have 3 kind of bigger segments here. I usually try to do 1 or 2 small segments and then a big one. We got 3 big ones here. So we're going to do a couple of rankings and then a draft. We're going to start with top 5 holiday things. I intentionally left it extremely generic. I have a lot of kind of conceptual ideas. You guys can get as specific, as generic with it as you want. We're just going to go around the circle here. So Pat, you'll go first, Keegan, and then me. This is just a rankings. It's not a draft, so you don't have to play any strategy into it.
Are we going to go 5-1 and rotate through each pick, or are we just going to list our 5?
So my plan was holiday things go 1 to 5, and then in our next one, we'll go 5-1.
Okay.
What's the second ranking? I'm sorry.
5 favorite Patriots all time.
All right, 5 Patriots. Okay.
So, all right. So we're going to go holiday things. You don't have to have necessarily a 1 to 5. You can even just throw.
Can you go to Keegan first?
All right, we'll flip you guys around here. So Keegan, go ahead.
Appreciate you.
Pat had a show tonight. He's a busy man, busy family guy.
So I'm going all 5.
No, just do one. Yeah, we'll go around the room.
Okay, so I'm gonna go number 1. This is my number 1 Christmas thing of all time. Christmas by Darlene Love. It's a top 3 song of all time.
Okay.
It's Christmas, the snow's coming down. That song. One of the greatest of all time. Darlene Love. I'd marry her today if she'd let me. She's the best. Phenomenal song. Matt knows what's going on.
There we go. So I'm gonna see your holiday song and raise you a better holiday song, and that is the 12 Days of Christmas, sung by Straight No Chaser, which, shout out Mark Schofield, finishes with an a cappella version of Africa by Toto, but singing the 12 Days of Christmas. If you haven't heard this song, boys and girls, if you haven't heard this song, jump on the Google and type in 12 Days of Christmas, Straight No Chaser. It's amazing. The live version is pretty good. The live version, I think, is better. It's fantastic.
All right. Well, I'm calling audible here because it wasn't on my initial list, but since we're throwing out best Christmas songs, I'm going to be the basic one. I'm going to be the correct one, but I'm going to be the basic one. It's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Yeah,
All I Want for Christmas Is You. It's so good.
I listened to it on the way to the grocery store today.
I'm not
jacked up.
I'm not anti-Christmas music. You'll see from my list. I'm not anti-Christmas music or movies, but I'm just not generally a fan of them. All I Want for Christmas Is You is the exception. Absolute banger. So good.
It's a heater. It's a good one.
It absolutely is overplayed, Matt. That's what I meant. I'll be the basic one here, but it's the correct answer. Basic is correct sometimes. There's a reason things get popular. All right, Keegan, number 2.
Number 2, Chinese food on Christmas Eve. That's like a family thing that we've done since I was a kid. We've got some Jewish people in my family. We're one of the rare families where we cross over. We got all sorts of people going on. So it's like a Jewish tradition, I know, in part of my family where that's what they eat on Christmas because they don't really care about Christmas.
Right.
But we do it on Christmas Eve so everybody can have a taste because Chinese food's the best. So
we did Chinese food on Christmas Eve for a while too. That's a good one.
It's phenomenal. Pat,
number 2.
All right, so I'm a teacher. Christmas break, baby. It's the best. I mean, come on now. Like, you get the last day, maybe 2 days before. I'm showing movies in class and we're playing games and shit. And I'm handing out candy canes to the kids. And then we get on break, and then I have like a week and a half off, and it's real nice. It's just real nice, right? And I get to do the whole thing in my class. I'm like, I'll see you next year. And they on the way out, it's amazing, so good. So that's
middle school teacher, right?
8th grade, but I'm in the high school. But yes,
okay, gotcha.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so they all groan at that every time they call.
Oh yeah, every time. Yeah, I start my every class with the dad joke of the day. So
Love
good.
It.
Matter of fact, here's today's dad joke of the day. Dogs can't work an MRI machine, but cats can.
It's a good one.
Do you write it on the whiteboard so they have to walk in, read it?
I do not. No, I do not. I surprise them with it because the thing is that it's all about the delivery, man.
Right.
It's not, written down. Right. You know what I mean?
You're completely right. Matt's summed it up perfectly. Boo, that was wonderful. All right, I'm going to piggyback on that one. So I didn't really have an order for these ones, so I'm just kind of hopping around. So I'll piggyback on that one. I am not a teacher, but work vacation around Christmas time, even if you're working, because like you're saying, as a teacher, you're popping on movies in like a corporate world. No one's getting anything done that week. Right. It's like Christmas is on a Saturday this year, and then you have the week in between Christmas and New Year's, and then New Year's obviously also falls on a Saturday. So my entire team at work is going to be out at least from Christmas through that week. Most of them are taking the week before Christmas as well. So you get like 2.5 weeks where no one expects you to do anything, even if you're actually working. Nice. It's great. It's wonderful. Nice. I'll be taking like a week and a half off as well. But then even those days beforehand are basically just prep for the vacation. You're vacationing while you're sitting at your desk. Great.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Number 3, Keegan.
me and Ryan have talked about it. We did like a impromptu, what's your favorite stuff?
Mhm.
And A Christmas Story is my favorite movie of all time.
Yes, you have said that before.
But I can't pick the full movie because that's just who I am as a person. It's not specifically Christmas. So I'll take a scene from the movie. And it's where Scott Farkas, the bad guy, he comes out and he runs off all the kids, and the little brother Randy falls down, and the narrator says, Randy just laid there like a slug. It was his only defense. It makes me laugh every time. My grandfather says it to me every Christmas, and I cry laughing. It's so funny.
That movie is so good. Oh, it's so good.
And every time I hear the name Randy, it kills me. And then also, just another shout out to Randy. There's a scene, he's sitting underneath the sink, and he's crying because he thinks his dad's going to kill Ralphie. And he goes, Daddy's going to kill Ralphie. And his mom goes, no, he's not. And he goes, yes, he is too. And he's all sad. And she goes, do you want some milk? And he's like, yeah. So she gives him milk and just closes the door while he's underneath the sink with all the chemicals. And whatever. It's such a good movie. It's so good.
Matt's never seen it. TBS runs it 24
hours
on Christmas. I've never seen it.
You gotta see it.
I will be honest. I used to love A Christmas Story. The 24-hour TBS had burnt me out because I have a split family, divorced parents. So I go like 4 different places on Christmas, and everywhere I go, I just end up walking into different parts of this movie.
That's the best.
It's burnt me out, but before the burnout, it's probably the best Christmas movie in my opinion. So I'm with you.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. All right, Pat, number 3.
So I'll go Christmas movies as well. By the way, Murph, I mentioned it already. You are tardy. You said, you admitted it. It's just half and half. Nothing special today. I'm gonna go. So there's a lot of really good Christmas movies. A lot of good ones. The Grinch Stole Christmas is always one of my favorites. The old one with Boris Karloff is probably the best one.
The animated one.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one with Jim Carrey is trash, and I will go to my grave saying that one is trash. It is absolute garbage.
It's like when Tim Burton redid
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
And it's just terrifying.
It's just not
terrifying.
Right. And listen, if you want to, and that's the thing, right? And people say like it's a dark comedy, which it is. The Grinch isn't supposed to be that dark. Anyways, the new one with Benedict Cumberbatch, I thought was decent.
I didn't.
Not great, but decent.
Shout
out Murph. Die Hard is absolutely 100% a Christmas movie. Absolutely, Die Hard Christmas movie. It's a great movie. So there's a lot of great Christmas movies out there. Elf is probably like, if you talk about like from beginning to end, the best Christmas movie. Probably it's Elf because it's just so good and there's so many great scenes. But yes, Christmas movie. Just sitting down and watching a Christmas movie with the kids is a lot of fun. Every year they come out with like a new, Christmas Chronicles, or they'll come out with something different. And with Muppet Christmas Carol is so good, right? So shout out Dark Blue Gold. But like, it's one of those things where I love sitting down and watching with them with the kids. So it's a lot of fun.
It's similar. Most Christmas movies, there won't be any on my list, but similar. I get burnt out on them personally, but objectively good. Not someone who hates on them, but they won't be appearing on my list. My number 3. Seeing family, just in general. I have a very close family. I see them a lot throughout the year, but it's always nice to have like a holiday to get together around. This year's gonna be a little weird. So my great grandmother lived to be 98, and we always had it at her house every year. She passed this summer, so it's gonna be the first year without it. So it's gonna be weird, but it'll be good to see everyone with it. So seeing family is always something that excites me. So that's a good one. Little cousins. I'm the oldest of my generation on both sides, or oldest and second oldest on each side. So I've had like a stream of like toddler or infant cousins or like young child cousins my entire life. So seeing them get excited every year is always been fun. So yeah, family's always good.
So you guys number 4. You guys went sappy on me. I don't have one just because my Christmas family is just a family I see all the time. So like whatever. I see you guys saying.
I hear that.
I have 15 people in my life that I see, and you guys are 2 of them. So like, it's whatever. I went funny on all of them. The NBA Jingle Bells commercial from like 2014, love it. I watch it on YouTube sometimes, where like it's like Katie, Harden, Steph Curry, they're shooting, and then Derrick Rose and Steve.
Oh yeah, and it like makes the song, right?
It Jingle Bells, yeah. And then at the end, LeBron dunks it, and it like they act like they actually did it. It's so good. My girlfriend Kendall, she thought it was real. Ridiculous. No chance that was ever real, but it's very good. It makes me laugh every time. I think it's a great commercial.
Nice, very nice.
Pat number 4.
All right, listen, man. I'm gonna do it. Presents. Come on, man. Presents. Like, what's better than getting presents, dude? Like, that's the best thing ever. Now, I will say, to get sappy again, no, the only thing better than me getting presents is seeing the kids every Christmas morning, Santa Claus, and like they're running and jumping and going nuts, and like some of the funniest videos we have of them. Johnny had his binky when he's probably like 1.5, and they're running down and he's like flipping out, and they're all like yelling, and he's got the binky in his mouth, and he's like so excited he like falls down on his butt, and then he like takes his binky and like chucks it, and then it's like going, it's like unbelievable. And so, but every year it's like seeing them, you know, the way they react and the way they freak out about things, that makes it so much fun, you know?
Yeah, I'm completely with you. That's gonna be my next one as well. I will say receiving presents stresses me out. I don't like it. I agree. I play along. I'm not like a don't get me anything person, but it stresses me out, and I'd much rather give you a list that you stick to, because
I'm a terrible gift giver.
So I'm the opposite. So if it's something that you get me that like isn't useful to me, I'm not someone who's like, you know, oh, what the heck? Why did you get this for me? It's useless to me. I feel like actively terrible that I know I'm never going to use something that you just spent money on for me. It stresses me out. But giving gifts, I am an excellent gift giver, in my opinion. I love giving gifts. So that's one of my
favorite present stories ever. My sister for my birthday bought me. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I've read like 50 something of his novels. I can't read anymore because I'm so busy. But I've read like 50 of his novels. She bought me Misery, which I had picked up and read and started and like didn't love, and I was like, and I ended up putting it down. She got it for me, saved up her own money. She was like in middle school or high school, saved up her own money and bought it for me, picked it out herself. And I opened it up, and the first thing I said was, oh, wow, you know, this is like the only one I didn't really like.
No.
I was like, oh my God.
No.
And like, meanwhile, you know, 6 months later, I like picked it. Obviously you had to grovel at her feet for a bit, but then 6 months later I picked it up, got through the first like 20 pages, and it's an amazing book. And of course, you know what I mean? Like,
it's not my favorite Stephen King book, but I think it's my favorite Stephen King book that's turned into a movie.
Yeah, that movie was fantastic.
I love Misery.
Yeah.
This is the other thing, Dark Blue. I think I do all right. The issue is I'm kind of the same either way. So even if I'm really excited about something, I kind of come off as I'm not, because I'm just not a very animated person. So trying to properly convey that I appreciate something is stressful, and then the feeling of knowing that something is not going to be useful to me and someone spent money
pretending that it is. Yeah,
it's all around a stressful situation for me. All right, that. Keegan, number 5.
My girlfriend just texted me. She said I can't be friends with Pat anymore because he doesn't like the Grinch movie, and I think that goes for you, Ryan, because we love that movie. She said she's unfollowing you. So I should have went 4th round with this, because my last one, my favorite thing in the world is giving gifts. I fucking love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me and my sister worked out a deal, which is great for her, but I get to be Santa's helper this year and tell Santa what my nephew wants for Christmas.
Awesome.
Nice.
And I've been like spending way too much money on helping Santa find my nephew gifts. I
had basically everyone that I buy gifts for gifts bought before I'd even thought about what I wanted.
Absolutely.
Like just about everything. I have like 2 things still coming in the mail, and everything else is already wrapped and under the tree.
Yeah,
I started thinking about that in like September.
I'm looking at our tree right now. It's full, and it's all for gifts from my niece and my nephew, because I love it. And I'm kind of similar with you guys, where I don't really like getting gifts.
Right.
Like, I'm grateful for, you could get me like a bagel, and I'd be like, yes, right. I'm grateful, but also like I kind of brush it off to the side, because I'm like, open the one I got you. I love it. I love seeing the look on people's face. I've got a couple great ones that I've gotten people, and it's like no better feeling than when somebody's like, holy shit, this is a great gift.
Especially when it's someone who's hard to buy for, and then you finally find the thing. Like, my mom is really hard to buy for, and I got her a couple this year early that were kind of generic, just in case I couldn't come up with anything. And then I thought of the thing, and I'm not going to say it just in case she tunes in. She'll watch every once in a while. But I finally thought of the thing, and it was like, yeah, like, let's go.
That's awesome.
It's the best. Me and my sister got my grandparents a new mailbox this year, and my grandfather's going to be so excited. It's like, it's such a ridiculous thing, but
but that's awesome then.
They're like retired and they buy whatever they want. So being able to find something that they need that they wouldn't buy for themselves, it's so fun. So
that's cool.
That's my favorite thing, is giving gifts.
Pat, number 5.
Number 5 for me is snow. I love snow. And as I've gotten older, I like it less because I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
but it's still going out and playing in the snow and running in the snow and like everything about it, even just seeing it like it's snowing right now and just seeing like some of the snow on the ground is just like is the coolest thing. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I love snow on Christmas, and then outside of that, I'm also I need to be like the opposite of people who get I need to be the opposite of people who get summer homes in like Florida. I want to live where it's warm and then just come up for like a month for Christmas and get like a snowy Christmas and then go back to being warm. My number 5 is a pretty specific one. I've been a video game player my whole life. It's playing the new video game that you got for Christmas after like your whole family time is done. It's like 2:00. You have like an NBA game on in the background, and then you're just sitting and you're just trying out the new game. Whether it was Call of Duty a lot in like high school or like before I had my own money to buy like Madden in the summer, it'd be Madden a lot of the time, like other sports games, and just sitting down and firing it up for the first time and spending like being able to spend like 4 hours, especially as a kid when you would normally have like limits on how much you could play. It doesn't apply to Christmas.
Nope.
Right.
Being able to just go play it after everything's done. Always my favorite. Still my favorite now. If I were to like get a gift card or something and buy a game on Christmas, it's absolutely getting played that day.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool.
Before we move on, what's you guys' favorite gift you ever got?
You guys go first. I need to think about it. If you have one in mind, you can hit us.
Yeah, I was asked this the other day at one of my class. We were just all talking about it, and I believe it was my aunt and my mom like pitched in back when I was real little. They got me a custom Salem, like the team I played for. It was the year I started, but it had my last name on it and my number, like a jersey.
Nice.
And this is 15 years ago, and I'm still like, that's a sick ass gift. Like it's so cool. So I still have it.
That's awesome.
So I have a few good ones, but I think my favorite one of all time. So I went snooping. We used to go snooping every now and again. I went snooping one year, and I found what I really like. The only thing I asked my parents for, which was a Damon Stoudemire purple Raptors jersey.
Oh hell yeah!
Stoudemire was my favorite player, and it was a replica. Now I have an authentic one too, but it was a replica. But I knew I was getting it, and so I went snooping with my sister. And of course, my sister told my parents right away that we went looking for gifts and whatever. So I was like, "Yeah, idiot, what are you doing?" So, but Christmas Day comes and it's nowhere to be found. And I'm like freaking out because now, of course, I can't say that I know I got it. And I'm like, where the hell? So I'm like searching everything. Well, we have this like big decorative stocking, and my mom has put all the names of everyone on it. So like then I got married. So then she puts my wife's name on it. Then she put the kids' names on it. Then my sister got married. So she put his name on it. It's at the bottom of this massive like fake stocking that's like literally like thumbtacked to like the door. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I reach in and there's the jersey, and it was like the best thing ever. So that's awesome. And that was probably like, I don't even know, in 9th grade or something like that, 8th, 9th grade or something. But that was a good one.
That's awesome. I have 3 quick stories. So I think the best present I ever got was a birthday present, not a Christmas present. But it was, I was like, I think 11, and it was when the PSP had just come out. Oh, and my dad had been like asking me about it, kind of like hinting towards it. And so for my birthday that year, I was like getting excited, like, oh, I think I might be getting a PSP. And then so I opened my gifts, and then the last one it was like back when radios were a thing, like radios that you would put in your room. He got me my own radio with like a CD player in it and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you're getting in middle school, you're getting into music, here's your CD player." And I was like, it was the last one, so I was like, "Oh, this is cool," but I thought I was getting a PSP. And then he's like, "Open it up," and I opened it up, and the PSP is inside the radio box.
That's dope. And
so I lost my mind.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Second one is actually right here, and it is I sent my dad this this memorabilia thing last year. It was like right as I was moving, and I was like, oh, I impulse want to pull the trigger on this, but I'm not going to because I was moving and spending a bunch of money on that. And I forgot about it. And then he ended up getting it for me for Christmas. And in my new place, I need to paint up here. So I've been holding off hanging stuff until I paint, which has been now a year, and I still haven't painted. So it still hasn't been hung up. But it was a signed poster with Jalen, Jason Tatum, and Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker being arguably my favorite non-Celtic of all time before he came to the Celtics. I was like, this is fire. I love it. And of course, now before I've ever hung it, Kemba's not in the Celtics anymore.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Though. It's still dope.
Absolutely sick. And then my third quick one is that I got a Wes Welker jersey around the same time of age that I got the PSP, maybe a year or two later. And I got it on Christmas. It was a white jersey. I was so hyped. I was like, hell yeah, I'm wearing this to like our family Christmas party that night. And then we had spaghetti and meatballs, and I spilled sauce all over it.
Oh my God, dude.
And my dad spent legitimately like a day and a half repeatedly washing it to get the stains out. And after like 7 washes, he finally got them all out. But
unbelievable.
Just like 4 hours after owning it, just
yeah,
sauce
sounds about right. Yeah. Oh,
I have one more quick story I just remembered about giving gifts. My best friend in the world, he loves Pokey Reese. Like for one of those weird things. So much so that he named his daughter Reese. And like a month before she was born was his 26th birthday or whatever it was. And I found a signed Pokey Reese 2004 World Series ball for like $18.
That is so cool.
Best gift I've ever given. He almost cried. It was great.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right. Holiday feel goods here. But we'll move on. We'll do some favorite Patriots of all time here. So here I want you, if you have your list, Keegan and Pat, I want you to go 5-1 here if possible. So we're going to go same order, Keegan, Pat, and me. Keegan, give me your 5th favorite Patriot of all time.
Believe it or not, I've got Kyle Duggar.
Okay.
So there's a reason behind this one. I invented the Kyle Duggar like train for myself. This is before Pat's Pulpit. I started at Pulpit right after the draft, and I was writing on my own blog about the draft and who the Patriots should draft. And in my mock draft in the 2nd round, the exact pick that the Patriots had, I picked Kyle Duggar to be on the Patriots. I always liked him, and he's become my favorite player to watch this year on film and stuff. He's super fun to watch. I think he's going to be a really, really good Patriot for a long time. So Kyle Duggar, number 5.
All right. Adam Vinatieri's a good one. Pat, who you got at number 5 here?
Drew Bledsoe.
Okay.
Drew Bledsoe is, I fell in love with the team in 1993. I was 9 years old. Bledsoe, number 1 overall pick, of course, that year. And he was my guy. I loved him. I was sad, obviously, when he got hurt. I was, on the fence back and forth about whether they should keep him or go with Brady and back and forth and stuff. And Drew, Gillette Stadium doesn't get built without Drew Bledsoe. I always say there are 3 people that saved the New England Patriots. Number 3 is Drew Bledsoe. Number 2 is Bill Parcells. And number 1, obviously, is Robert Kraft. But without those 3 guys, this team isn't where it is right now. Right. And I think
the St. Louis Stallions or whatever.
Well, yeah, obviously without Kraft, right? They're in St. Louis. But
right.
But like, even when Kraft, because Parcells was already there and Kraft was trying to pull with Jerry Jones and being in, and what's his thing? Like, you can't, you want me to cook dinner and I can't buy all the ingredients, right? I think that taught Kraft to stay the hell out of it, and I don't think you have the success with Belichick that you do if you didn't have Parcells already. So
and Parcells taught Belichick a whole tot,
Yep.
So
Very
that
true.
counts too.
Yep.
My number 5 is Richard Seymour. Just absolute star. Should be entering the Hall of Fame at some point here. He's made it to like that second group of finalists the past few years. It feels like a matter of time before he gets in. Once the NFL is just so stupidly strict with it, and it's caused such a backlog, especially at wide receiver. So
like
he'll probably, I think we'll probably have a few more years that he has to wait. But it feels like a matter of time till he gets in at this point. They keep putting him into like the top 15, top 10 when only 5 get picked. So that absolute beast. I used to have a Richard Seymour jersey back when they used to sell like the knockoff jerseys at like JCPenney or whatever it was.
Like
and
92?
Then they were like $20. I had a
like
Richard Seymour
92
or
Richard
Seaford or whatever it would say.
Yeah. I had Richard Seymour one, and then I'm not going to say the name because it's the next person on the list. And he's an offensive player, and I'd wear them both, and I'd just pull one off when they were on offense, and then put it back on when they were on defense.
That's fantastic.
And it was always Richard Seymour, and then this next player coming up.
There you go.
All right, Keegan, number 4.
It's crazy to think he's going to be the first Belichick player to get in. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
Number 4, Matt Slater. He is the Patriots. He is the New England Patriots. Every time Pat's cap, whenever somebody asks him. He always says Matthew Slater's my favorite Patriot. I'm like, I never thought of it that way. And then I'm like, he
He rules.
Who else?
It's gonna suck
Epitomizes.
probably next year when he's not here anymore.
Yeah, it's.
He rules.
I'm very interested to see who carries on the but
Yeah.
Matt Slater, he's the best, man. He just seems like a guy I would want to learn from and just have a conversation.
I mean, how can you not smile every time? Every time I hear him talk, I have a big smile on my face. I love that guy.
The videos never get old. Like, it's impressive. It's
that started with Brewski, but still,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
That's another thing. Another reason why he was a rookie, or he was going into his second year when Brewski retired, and Brewski was like, "Yeah, you got it." Like, what a wild thing, you know? Yeah. Brewski was there for this
wide
years.
receiver that didn't pan out and is now trying to make his name on special teams. He's like, "Yeah, that's
right." He was like a middling return man at that point in his life, and he took it over. But he's got that, like, you saw it in the last one they just posted, that like preacher thing where all the guys on the team love it, where he's like rain, snow, wind, and they're all like, he's the best. He's very good at what he does.
And shout out that one catch that he has for like 50 yards. And what was it? Was it 13 or 15 when everyone was just dead against the Broncos?
13.
Shout out.
13.
Shout out Matt Slater.
Play defense in 11.
Yep.
Pat number 4.
Rodney Harrison. Rodney Harrison.
He was an honorable mention here for me.
I will forever bang the drum about Rodney Harrison. He is, in my opinion, and Stanley Morgan's up there too, in my opinion, the best defensive player not in the Hall of Fame. It's an absolute travesty that he's not even a finalist for the Hall of Fame, and that's embarrassing. The guy is the only defensive back with 30 interceptions and 30 sacks. There's 2 players all time with 30 interceptions and 30 sacks, and that's Ray Lewis. And so hello. And even when they went back to like the 70s and changed it and added the sacks in on Pro Football Reference, there's still no one with 30 and 30. So what he was able to do was unbelievable. He came to this team and changed this team. 03 and 04 are partially because of Rodney Harrison. He was so much fun to watch. And the fact that he gets hated by the entire media makes it even stronger for me. And Sunday Night Football is losing a lot by having Drew Brees in there instead of him, because Drew stinks. And he's awesome in that booth because he'll say whatever the hell he wants. And he doesn't care what anybody thinks. And Jesus, I freaking love that guy.
I would fight somebody for Rodney Harrison.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That guy's awesome.
My number 4, the alluded to player before, Kevin Falk. Absolutely love Kevin Falk growing up. I mentioned earlier on the show, I was a running back growing up. I was a sucker for running backs. Always a sucker for the pass catching running backs. It's not the only one that made my list. I have a signed ball from Kevin Falk that now I got it when I was like 7 or 8, and I didn't realize the importance of like an autograph and what that meant. So I would like play with it. So it's like deflated, doesn't inflate anymore, but I still have it. And the signature is still able to be read. Kevin Falk absolutely rules. Love
that guy. So I used to play ball with Kevin Falk. I used to play basketball with him.
Yep.
And perhaps one of the greatest moments of my life was so he got inducted in the Hall, and they do a speaker series at the Hall. And so, of course, I've been telling people that I've been playing with him and I know him and this and that. I have his phone number. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we've texted and blah, 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 this and that, right? So whatever. But, there's still kind of like, oh, okay, how well does he really know you, right?
Yeah.
So we're in the hall waiting at the elevator. And it's me, my mom, my dad, my sister, and there's like one other person who worked at the hall with my dad. And all of a sudden I hear from behind us, Pat, what's up, man? How's it going? I turn around. It's friggin' Kevin. And I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? Oh, I dap him up and everything. And then we ride in the elevator up and we're just chatting, shooting the shit. It was the coolest moment ever because it was like, awesome. Yeah, I know you say that you're friends with him. And I've told people that I'm friendly with him. But like for him to like say hello to me and then chat, like I was like, that's the coolest moment of all time. That really happened right there. So it was really cool. Yeah.
Shout out Kevin Falk. Absolute love for him. Keegan, number 3.
So Lawyer Malloy got traded when I was 4. Never watched him play for the Patriots, but I remember when I first got into football in like 2006, when he was on the Seahawks and then the Falcons, I was like, this guy's awesome. And I remember my uncle being like, he used to play for the Patriots. And I was like, no way. Why don't they have him still? Like, so
as I think is true for a lot of Patriots fans, that was like the biggest time my dad has ever questioned Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember I was 7 the year that he got cut. And I remember my dad like say fire Belichick, how could you do that? I just
Yep.
absolutely irate.
And then lose 31-0 against the team that
Against him.
picked them up.
Against the Bills. Yep.
And he had
You
a
know?
monster game. He had 2 sacks.
He did,
like
yeah.
a
He was
wild
on
man.
game.
So to fall in love with the player and then find out that he, used to play for the team that I followed, like that was awesome growing up. And then looking back, like the quotes from the Americas game in 2001, where Pittsburgh, they had already packed their bags and they had him in a room waiting to go to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. And he was like, you don't do that to the Patriots. Like you don't do that to the Patriots. Like the mentality, looking back, like I have a bunch of old football cards from when my uncle was a kid and growing up, and I have them now. And there's one where he's just wearing a do-rag on it. And he's just like looking into the camera like he's going to kill somebody. Like he's what I think of when I think of an old school, like 90s safety.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's like my favorite kind of football player that got some skill, but like will also knock you out. Love
absolute badass.
Lawyer Malloy pulled this out of the depths of my brain. You guys remember Eugene Wilson?
Oh yeah.
Eugene Wilson. So the just like knockoff jerseys I was talking about before. I remember right after Eugene Wilson left, there was on clearance like 15 Eugene Wilson jerseys in one of those like knockoff places. And I remember being like, I think I was 11 or 12, and I remember being like, why? Who buys a Eugene Wilson?
Shout out Eugene, because this just triggered something in my brain. My dad, every other time he would talk about Pat Chung, would call him Eugene. Like not even intentionally, just like because in his brain,
because that's
like,
what dads do. Yeah,
right. You know what I mean? Like
the first way you hear something, that's who it is forever. Yeah.
Right. And he's like, listen, he's like, I know you're getting confused with some of these numbers because a guy left 3 years ago. He's like, I'm remembering guys from the 70s. So like, I don't, like I see 52 out there, and I'm thinking like not Ted Johnson. I'm thinking some guy that played in the 60s. You know. So
I distinctly remember my uncle screaming at the TV at James Sanders saying, "You don't deserve to wear Lawyer Malloy's number," because he wore 36. Like so upset because James Sanders was terrible.
He sure was.
He was like, "That guy stinks," and that only helped me love him even more.
The number one guy that like used to just piss me off more than anything being on his team. One was Kyle Arrington, but the number one guy was Gary Guyton. I hated Gary Guyton.
So
I hated.
We're going story time now.
Yes.
But I met Gary Guyton and Rob Gronkowski at Ken's Kickin' Chicken in Peabody, Massachusetts, in 2011. And I have a picture. It's on my Instagram of me and my 2 buddies growing up, standing there with Gronk, like a young 23-year-old Gronk, just looking like an asshole. Definitely hungover at like 8 a.m. at a chicken pot pie place.
Oh my God.
I still have a 8x10 signed by Gary Guyton. Gary Guyton was very nice. Very
there
nice
you go.
guy.
Yeah, if we're ever at the game together, keep an eye out for a Phil Dorsett jersey, because I absolutely own a Phil Dorsett jersey. If you guys have followed me on Twitter for a couple of years now, you might remember when I said if he sets the consecutive targets completed streak, I would be buying a Phil Dorsett jersey. He said it. I have one. Really, that was like the peak.
Man of his word.
Anything after that, the streak got broken and he disappeared for the rest of that year and then left.
It's your fault.
Still on the jersey. And now I think anytime I go to a game, other than like the Red Sox, if I go to Celtics, Patriots, Bruins game for the rest of my life, I think I'm going to wear it there as a bit.
I like it. All right.
Give me number 3.
Number 3 for me, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. I mean, like, come on, dude. He's obviously the greatest player of all time and everything else, and we're forever grateful to. And so he has to be on the list. He has to be on the list, but he can't be above the 2 guys ahead of him. So he's 3 because he's just, I mean, like, he's freaking Brady. Nothing else needs to be said. He's great.
I'll spoil my list a little bit. He's not on my list for kind of the reason that you just said. He's freaking Brady. Like I always love, my favorite players always tend to be it's not that they're necessarily role players, but like once you reach a certain level of stardom, it's just you're that. Like, I'm not a fan of you. You're just like a status at this point. Like, Gronk's not on my list either for the same reason. Like, they're just statuses to me.
Gronk's not on my list for a different reason, but yeah.
Because no Jared Cook. All right, my number 3. It was really tough having him only be number 3. I would almost say my next 3 are like 1A, 1B, 1C. Ty Law is so
talk
good.
About cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you talk about like cool DBs that gives you that throwback vibe. Ty Law is cool as hell. There's no way my dad's watching. For Christmas this year, again wrapping the Christmas gifts, I got him an authentic with like the picture of him signing it on the back, framed photo of Ty Law's pick six signed by Ty Law.
Oh, that's so
That's
dope.
awesome.
It's so sick. It is so sick. It was more money than I intended on spending on any one person this year. And the second I saw it, I was like, nope, done.
Yeah, that's so dope. It's so cool.
It's signed. It's a picture on the back of him at the signing. It's hand signed.
That's
Sick.
so dope.
It is sick. Very excited to give to him. I think that's my most excited to give gift this year. Ty Law, number 3, absolute king. Love him. We've talked about before on the show too. The picture of him and Belichick in the throwback unis, the team picture, but he's next
The
to Belichick
96
crouching
Super
down.
Bowl.
Yeah,
Yep.
the 96 Super Bowl. They prominently featured in the 2 Bills 30 for 30. One of the coolest pictures of all time.
Yeah.
I'm so upset Malloy is like off in the corner because
Right.
if you could crop everybody out, and just have those
the
three.
3 of them. Yeah,
That'd be so dope,
Even
yeah.
with like
so good.
Mike Clay or whoever else is on the team, like
Yep.
even if you had to include somebody
Willie
else.
Clay, sir.
Willie
Big play.
Clay, yeah.
Big play, Willie Clay.
But yeah, that's a great picture.
Yep.
It's up to
All
me,
right.
right?
Yeah, it's
Up to
Keegan,
you.
your number 2.
Number 2.
So for being the youngest person that works at the pulpit, love old school football. Julian Edelman is the most old school football player there is in the past few years. Offense, defense, special teams. He'll get a concussion and then play better somehow. Like a madman. Also incredibly handsome. Dated Adriana
Absolute
Lima.
stud.
Very cool. Kind of a goofball, makes mistakes. He's not like unhuman. He's got a human aspect to him. He's funny. Like Julian Edelman's just a cool guy. So I got Julian Edelman at 2. My life goal is to be a slot receiver in the NFL, just like a scrappy white slot receiver. It's not going to happen, but that's who Edelman is. So I like it.
Hey, it could happen.
In our group DM for the show, I just sent you guys a picture of the Ty Law.
That's
Ty
sweet.
Law.
Black too.
Yeah, it's absolutely sick. All right, Pat, number 2.
Number 2. Holy shit, that's so dope. Okay.
It's so sick.
Number 2 on my list is man, he's awfully close to number 1, but Troy Brown. I mean, Troy is everything that Edelman is, but before Edelman did it. 8th round draft pick in 1993, and he just got on and off the team a little bit at the beginning. Wasn't sure if he's gonna have a role. Couldn't hold on to the football. Right, like blew a few kick returns. I'm sorry, like. He just became the best player on the team. He was the only reliable target in 2001. Obviously, David Patton, but Troy Brown had like 101 catches, and David Patton was second with like 45 or 50 or something stupid like that. It was just like ridiculous. One of the best plays I've ever seen in my entire life was, I think, against the Giants, and last game of the season. And Bledsoe threw it on like 4th and 10, and Troy Brown was falling. Like the pass was behind him. Brown stopped, slipped, fell down, and as he was falling to the ground, stuck his hands up and caught the ball for a first down. It was just like impossible to make that catch, and he made it anyways. Troy just did everything right, and he's just like the epitome of what a Patriot is. And so Troy is number 2 on my list.
It doesn't get talked about because they lost, but 06 AFC Championship game, causing that fumble after Brady threw the worst interception of his life.
Marlon McCree.
Yeah, to keep them in
idiot.
it. I missed that trivia.
Well, they won that
question
game, and then they lost the AFC Championship. But
right.
Yeah,
That's
so
my bad,
even bigger deal. He saved the game for them.
Right.
Him and Nick Kading. Vince Wilfork, dark blue gold, great pick. That Troy Brown's another one. Like, it hurt me to put just 5 down because there are so many deserving. Vince Wilfork would probably have been 6. Troy Brown would have been like 7 or 8 here. My number 2, Blanco, James White, loved him. He is probably my favorite progression that we've ever seen for a Patriots player, because he did the whole first year, didn't do anything while they transitioned from Shane Vereen to him thing. Then his first year where he actually saw action, he stunk. Yeah. He was not very good.
That's why Deion Lewis became Deion Lewis.
That's why Deion Lewis became a thing. And then up until the playoffs of the Atlanta Super Bowl, he really wasn't very good. And then he switched in those playoffs. He became a stud. He wins the Super Bowl in overtime. And then he's just been steady since then. He's been great. He's a great leader. He's a great guy. He shares a lot of similarities as a person to my number 1, but I absolutely love James White. I I have a James White jersey in home and away. Absolute love
There you go.
James White.
There you
Love
go.
James White. Blanco forever. I hope that we haven't seen the last of him in the Patriots uniform.
Me too.
Tough way to
Keegan.
go out.
Keegan, who is your number one favorite Patriots player of all time? Hell yeah, dark blue gold.
He's the reason I fell in love with football. It's Teddy Bruschi.
Yeah. You've
Teddy
talked about
Bruschi's
it on the
awesome.
show before.
Yeah, he's the best, man. Like, you know what's funny too? Like, he's my favorite football player of all time. Loved watching him play as a kid. Like, the reason I fell in love, I refused to play for the first year. I refused to play until they gave me number 54.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not playing if I don't wear 54. Love him. I think he's terrible on ESPN. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't think he's great. But he's the best. Like, he carries the Patriots flag forever, which I can respect. No, he goes to ESPN during Deflategate and was the only guy there that was carrying the flag. So respect to him for that, because that's tough. And then, like,
also a defensive lineman who transitioned to off-ball linebacker
because he was too small, right?
Yeah.
Too small, too slow. Found a way, became a captain. Bill Belichick called him the perfect Patriot at his retirement press conference. I remember my sister, we listened to it on the radio on the way to football practice for me, or on the way to like a baseball practice for me. And she knew I loved him so much that when she heard he was retiring, she started to cry. She like felt bad for me. It was, like I just loved him. My favorite player, other than Earl Campbell, my favorite football player of all time.
When he
coming back.
Go ahead, Pat.
I was just say him coming back against the Bills after his stroke was just like, oh my God. It was like, how the hell did he do that? It was unbelievable.
Every book report I did in high school was on his book, because people in Texas don't know about Teddy Bruschi.
Right.
And being able to tell them, and then being like, he came back 9 months after having a stroke and played football. And I'm like, oh yeah. Like he was on paternity leave or something. He just walked right back. It was like, I'm the middle.
Unbelievable.
When he retired, I remember asking my dad, being like, he's absolutely a Hall of Famer, right? And my dad was like, no. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like Teddy Bruschi. He was like, great. I remember vividly saying, great Patriot, one of the greatest Patriots of the time. But across the league, he's just like an average linebacker. I was like, there's no way. Teddy Bruschi is so good. He's got to be the best in the league. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way that he is not the best linebacker in the league and a Hall of Famer.
My older cousin had to have that conversation with me about when the Patriots are going to play in the Super Bowl in 2007. He was like, who do you think's going to win MVP of the Super Bowl? And I was like, Teddy Bruschi. And he was like, no. And I was like, yeah, he will. And he's like, no. He's like, the only linebacker that's won it in the past 100 years is Ray Lewis. And I'm like, yeah, Ray Lewis, Teddy Bruschi.
Yes,
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
All right.
He did not win Super Bowl MVP, believe it or not.
No, he did not. No, he did not.
I don't think a Patriot at all did, but I don't have memories of that game. I don't know what happened.
It's tough.
Pat, who is your number one favorite Patriot of all time?
Shout out Dark Blue Gold on his list. Big Vince. Big Vince is my guy.
I love it. It hurts me that he's not on mine.
I played D tackle. I played D tackle when I was in college, and he just he was so damn good. He was so damn good. And
Hall
one of my
Famer,
favorite,
without a doubt, should get in.
100%, 100%. And one of my favorite Vince Wilfork stories of all time, and it gives me chills every time I think about it. But he said that after every single game, he'd come into the locker room, and Bob Kraft and Myra Kraft would be there greeting everyone. And he said he gave a kiss on Bob's cheek and he'd give a kiss on Myra's cheek after every single game. And after Myra died, when he came into the locker room, he'd give a kiss to Bob on both cheeks. Yeah. And it just stuff like that. And I know, he had contract disputes and he had different things, and he obviously finished his career in Houston, which is one of the best video clips of all time. Him showing up with just the overalls.
And the
but
boots.
But just him, him talking about the game and him being there and what he meant to the team and how impactful he was as a nose tackle, is so good. And his favorite subject in school is math. Just saying.
I'm gonna retroactively flip my number 5 here. I said Vince Wilfork will probably be my 6. We're talking about him. I'm bumping him up to number 5. He's my number 5.
All right.
Seymour is my number 6. Vince Wilfork, 5th favorite. My number 1, a still active player, potentially coming into his last season or 2 here, which pains me greatly. It's Stephan Mccordy. I absolutely love Stephan Mccordy. Came out as a rookie and was he an All-Pro? He was a Pro Bowl caliber.
Pro Bowler.
He was a Pro Bowler, and then kind of had some struggles. I said specifically, I remember being in high school, said specifically they should trade for Aqib Talib and then put Devin McCourty at free safety because he would be an all-pro free safety. He just didn't get his head around when he was turned. Trade for Keith Talib, move him to safety. He's been a stud ever since. Absolutely love Devin McCourty. I was heartbroken when he was about to leave for the Eagles. That was one of the best revenge or plot twists storylines of my lifetime in anything. Was him ended up coming back.
Didn't he announce it on like Sports Center or something? Like some weird afternoon Sports
Center.
The
deal was like done. The deal was done. He was calling Bill Belichick to say goodbye, and Bill Belichick was like, "Hang on a minute, you're not going anywhere." What was the deal? And then they gave him the final offer, and he stayed. And the rest is history. This is the last year on his deal. I feel like he's going to retire from it. If not, I understand letting guys at the end of their career walk for, play a year or two, get a bag somewhere else. I hope that he doesn't play anywhere else. It's stick around for another year or two or retire. Please.
Even if he's not good enough to play, he's just such an emotional leader that he should retire a Patriot.
Absolutely.
He said it after the game on Monday. He was like, "That's why I love playing here. They care about winning here." And I know for a fact, because he's got a twin brother who's played for 4 other organizations. I know for a fact Cleveland. Other places don't care about winning, and that's why I love playing here. And to hear somebody admit that, it's like, it makes you feel a little bit good about following the team. Like, absolutely, they care.
And on top of it, great guy, just like James White, absolutely tremendous human being. He's been, I don't know how many times, but it feels like every year he's their nominee for Walter Payton Man of the Year. Just absolutely great human being. I also share a birthday with the McCourty twins.
Look at that.
Fun fact.
Players Coalition, the work that they do too.
Yep.
Huge. To be one of the main pillars of that. That's huge.
Yep. They're awesome.
Love Devin McCourty.
I also love they share Twitter account. It's so wholesome.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Instagram too.
Yeah.
I'll open up the stories and it'll be like a Dolphins, a share of a Dolphins player. And I'm like, what? How the hell did that get here? Right. It's like, it's the McCourty.
So that was our list. Top 5 favorite Patriots of all time. Very nostalgic. I think I have no issues with anyone's list here. Great lists. All right. We are running super long, but we have one more segment before we get into trivia here. And we are going to do a 2000s Boston sports title draft. So it's going to be 4 rounds because there are exactly 12 titles of the 4 major Boston sports teams in that time. So we have 3 guys here. We're going to snake through it. I'm going to randomize the order here in a second. And every single one will get picked. So it's a little bit of strategy that none, you might not be able to see. You're not going to get one sneaking through. All right. 3. So we're going to get a randomizer up. We're going to go throw Pat in there. We're going to throw Keegan in there.
Pat wants 3. I want 1. What do you want, Ryan?
Ryan, say you want 2. Say you want 2 and we're done.
I want 2.
Say you want 2. All right, we're done. That's it. Keegan, Ryan, Pat.
Unfortunately, only one of you gets the one you want because we have to honor the randomizer. The first overall pick is going to be Ryan. The second overall pick is going to be Keegan.
Oh, let's go.
Pat, you get the 3rd overall pick.
Woo!
Damn it. So,
the worst spot.
No, I think, although maybe not for you, Pat would be happy with me getting the first pick. I think you'll be happy with me getting the first pick as well because I don't think it's going to be first on anyone else's list. I've talked about it here before, though. So if you've paid close attention to 3 and out throughout the season, you probably know what's coming. It is the 2018 Red Sox.
Damn you.
The 2018 Red Sox is my favorite sports team of all time. It was the perfect age. That was they started that season when I was graduating college. They finished it when I was starting my full-time job. It was the perfect age. I love Mookie Betts is my favorite athlete of all time. I was all in on JD Martinez. That is my favorite. Nathan Eovaldi at the deadline came in and be a playoff stud. I have better memories of that Red Sox team as a whole than any other team on this list. So in terms of my personal list, it has to be number 1. If we're ranking objectively the most important, it wouldn't be number 1. I was going, most impactful to me, 2018 Boston Red Sox, number 1.
I have the same exact reasoning. I would have picked them first. I wasn't finishing college, but I was transferring colleges. And it was in the middle, like that summer coming to Massachusetts.
You're with youth, Pat. Remember, you're with youth.
I know.
That's
like 8th on my list.
Yeah, I was 7 for the 04 Red Sox.
So, no, I understand. I get it.
So number 2, I guess my first pick is the 04 Red Sox. I was super young, but I remember everything about it. I remember being in Boston in September and like, you just don't see it anymore where every single person in Boston was wearing Red Sox stuff back then. It was, now that they've won 4 in the past 20 years, it's not as important as it was. But back then, everybody lived and breathed Red Sox. And I remember my uncle and my dad crying when they won the World Series and seeing how important that was to people. Like, that's so awesome. So yeah, it replays in my head. I've talked about it before. I think I like Joe Buck because he's called all the Red Sox World Series.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
And they're all very good calls, but the 04 Red Sox back to full on first, and Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. Like, replays in my brain, like Matt said. So I got the 04 Sox.
Jumping back real quick, Dark Blue Gold. Kendrick Bourne's absolutely like quickly rising up this list.
Sure is.
Give him another year or two, and he might be in that top 10, top 5 conversation for me. Matt, I did the same thing, and that's the only reason that they're a little bit lower because I feel I was like 7 when they won. I've watched it back. I have the DVDs. I've watched it back a million times. But when the night that they clinched, my dad woke me up as they were about to win. He was like, "You need to watch this," and I didn't want to wake up. He forced me to wake up, and which I'm grateful for. But I did not want to wake up, and I was, as soon as they ended, I was like, "Cool, can I go back to sleep?" So
wow.
Again, the 04 championship DVD that the MLB put out is the best DVD in sports. Like, out of all the championships that they've done on any sport, that's the best one.
I have a collection where it's all 4. It's the full games, full broadcast of all 4. So it's the entire Yankees series and then the World Series. So I have all 11. I've watched them through a few times. I have the 07 one as well. I'm trying to see if they have a 13 and 18 ones.
4 Days in October is one of the best ESPN presents. It's so
great.
Good with Lenny.
Yep.
04 is, I mean, that's unbelievable. That's a wild, that's a great year.
And then Pat, you get Snake here. So 18 Red Sox and 04 Red Sox off the list. So I assume we're going to have our first Patriots pick.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm at this point right now where I'm like, what the hell do I do? I know what I do.
If we throw this on Twitter, I think Pat will run away with it.
Yeah, that's correct.
He goes with what I think is going to
That's correct, because I'm going Super Bowl 36 as my number 1 overall pick. It is a top 10 moment of my life, overall. Like overall top 10 moment of my life.
Yeah.
I was 18. I was a senior. I was 17 actually. I was a senior in high school. It was the best moment ever. I was with a bunch of my buddies watching it in a buddy of mine's basement. They had like a massive Super Bowl party. They had a huge projector, and we were sequestered in like a back bedroom with like a tiny little TV they were watching on, because we were like, screw all these people. We're watching the game. We don't want to hear anyone talking. We like shut the door behind us. It was amazing. And that moment when they kicked the field goal and it was good was just like, it's the best moment ever. And I just remember like freaking out. We're driving around in cars. We didn't know what the hell to do. We're like, we don't know what to do with ourselves. We're driving, honking our horns and shit. I remember a guy coming out shit faced, like carrying his daughter, like running, screaming. Like, people didn't know what the hell to do. Like, we had never won anything. Like, it was just like, what the hell? What do we do now? And it was just, you couldn't believe that it was real. And then to top it all off, and I feel like I've told the story before, but to top it all off, I hadn't gotten into college yet. And I said to my dad, like, I really want to go to the parade. And he's like, nah, I don't know if you can. The parade was on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Monday afternoon, I get home. There's a letter in my mail from Hofstra University.
Wait. Pat, you went to Hofstra?
I did not, but I got accepted to Hofstra.
I went to Hofstra.
Look at you. So I applied to 3 colleges: Providence, Hofstra, and Assumption. And I went to Assumption. But there was a letter in my mail from Hofstra University saying, congratulations, you're accepted into college, isn't that? I called my dad on his cell phone and I said, Dad, I got into college, blah, blah, this is great. And he goes, that's awesome. Congratulations. You're going to the parade tomorrow. And I'm like, let's go. I was so excited. So it was like the best thing ever. So it was just, it added everything. It was just the perfect moment in my life where like, it was amazing. And I will never, ever, ever forget that. And the Gino call, Gil's call, when it goes through, it's just like, oh God, it's the best moment ever. So 01 for me. And then the whole thing, Snowball, all of it, the whole season, like 9/11 and everything else, like amazing. So Super Bowl 36. And then you make it, it's a difficult decision. It's a challenging decision. I'm going to have to go 51. I got to go 51. It's really close. It's really, really close. But 28-3, I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, it's not it's not. Yeah, it's not 14. It's not Super Bowl 49. It's not the amazing play that was amazing. I know I probably should have gone Hofstra, but it's not
campus. Love Hofstra.
It's not the play that the Malcolm Butler thing was, but the fact that they were able to overcome that, and then I was able to talk about for 2 years in my math class about probability and go through the probability of the Patriots winning and the different plays and stuff. A little added bonus right there for me. So
that was my second overall pick.
Great pick. Before I make my pick, your story about getting into college like right after they won the Super Bowl, that's my story about the 16 team. I graduated like later that year and then got into college, and I was like, I'm going to Massachusetts. I'm getting out of Texas. I'm going to go where my teams play. So similar story.
Cool.
I'm going to have to go with the 14 Patriots. So 2014 was tough for your boy. I had moved to Texas. I was like alone, didn't really have a ton of friends. The Patriots became my friends. Like that's when I started watching them religiously, and like I was like, hey, maybe I want to cover this team. That's when everything started for me. I remember watching both my parents worked. I remember watching Super Bowl 49 by myself in our apartment. And it was like when they won, it was like the greatest moment of my life. I was like, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to tell all my teammates that their team sucks and my team's better. And we won the Super Bowl. And so back then the Spurs were winning Super Bowl or championships all over the place. They had just won. So they were like, oh, the Celtics suck, whatever. We're going to beat your record of championships. And then I was like, oh yeah, but my football team's better than yours. So, suck on it. So 14 was huge for me because that's all I had back then. It was just the Patriots and that's it.
You guys had your college acceptance stories. I had the Seahawks Super Bowl. I was at Hofstra my freshman year. It was the only year I ended up going to Hofstra. I transferred afterwards. Love Hofstra. No, nothing but love for Hofstra. So it's in New York. For those of you who don't know, it's on Long Island. So I am with my roommate, who is not really a football fan, but he was a Giants fan, and then a friend that I had made at Hofstra who was a Patriots fan, and then another friend of ours who was a Seahawks fan. And so we broke boys, ordered pizza. We're all in my dorm watching it, and the roller coaster. My roommate had turned into just like the troll, where whoever was doing poorly, he was kind of just like poking at him a little bit.
Brutal.
And then the other three of us were just like the TV was like right at the end of my bed, and we were all just in like the 3-foot space between the TV and the end of my bed, just like eyes right glued to it.
Yeah.
And I remember falling to the floor as the Jermaine Kearse catch happens, or Jerome Kearse catch happens.
Jermaine, yeah.
Did I get it right? Jermaine. Okay.
Jermaine, yeah.
Jermaine Kearse catch happens because it gets knocked away. The Seahawks fans kind of like, oh crap. And the Patriots fans are already celebrating, and I'm the only one that saw that he caught it. And I just slide to the floor. I'm like, oh my God, he caught that, guys. And they turn around, and then the broadcast starts picking up like, did he catch that? He caught that, like, and going crazy. And so the Seahawks fan starts going crazy, and then the interception, and just calling my dad as soon as the game ends, going outside. It starts snowing right as the game ends. There's like this 24-hour convenience store on campus right across from my dorm. So we walk over there. There's another Patriots fan having victory cigars. It's in New York. It's in like Giants country, really. Mm-hmm. So, everyone there hated the Patriots. We were screaming through the dorm. Some girl came out of her room. We're like, it's over. Shut the fuck up. It was
so good.
It was one of the best nights of my life.
Dude, that Chris Collinsworth all-time call. All-time call. Yep. But they're not in yet. Like, what a freaking call, dude. Especially looking back when they don't score. You're like, oh,
on the
my
DVD,
God.
too. They play that call, and then they play the little, like, chess match between Belichick where I think it's Patrick Graham who's like, Bill, are we going to call a timeout? Bill, do you want the timeout? Right. And he just gives him the shh, like, I'm doing something. Shut up. Like, I'm messing with Pete Carroll's brain right now. And it's
unbelievable.
It's so good.
Appreciate you, Murph, hanging out. We are definitely going super long, so we'll try to keep this moving. We're almost done.
I will say here. We've talked more about my picks than anybody else's, so think about that if we're voting on this.
So it looks like I am not going to have. Where are we at? We are
6.
There's 4 rounds. There's 4. All right, there's 4 rounds. Never mind. So I was thinking I have my last 2 picks here. Nope. So I got 2 picks coming up, and I'm at risk of not having a Patriots Super Bowl in my picks here. because my next on my list is the 13 Red Sox. That was my senior year of high school. The bombing, David Ortiz grand slam. They hit like 150 as a team in that ALCS against the Tigers, who were stacked and still ends up
only grand slams.
Yeah,
that's all they hit.
That's all they did.
Outrageous.
It just showing up. I remember I had we called it wellness, but it was basically gym. It was like health and gym combined.
Yeah.
It's showing up. I had that in first period, and just showing up every morning with the gym teacher is always some like former like D3 athlete. So they always love talking about. So we just show up and we just talk about sports talk about the Red Sox for the first half of class. That was just a great period. And then my next pick is going to be the 2011 Bruins because that was I was talking about with Keegan before the show. That was the peak of my hockey fandom. I'm not really a huge hockey fan anymore. I watch the playoffs. I watch every game in the playoffs. I'll catch a handful of regular season games, but I don't keep up with them like I used to. But from like 2010 through about 2014, basically my high school years, the Bruins were arguably my favorite team. It was like the Patriots and the Bruins right here. And all my friends were big Bruins fans. In 2011, I was a high school freshman. And so it was a similar thing, just showing up to class every day, talking about the Bruins. It was a big one. And it makes me kind of nostalgic for when I was a huge hockey fan, because that was just a magical run.
Yeah, that one to me, Nora was just born. Nora was literally born during the Canadiens series. So like Nicole was born on Easter Sunday. Mm-hmm. And Nicole went into labor the night before, and we stayed in the hospital like that night. And I remember I watched a Bruins Canadiens game in the hospital. They lost in overtime, but I watched a Bruins Canadiens game in the hospital while she was in labor. And then Nora was born the next day. And then it was just the playoff run was just so amazing. So
it was.
That's a great one. That was my next pick.
I remember one of the games in the conference finals. I had to. So again, I didn't have my license or anything. I was a high school freshman. So my mom was still kind of setting up when I had to do things, and she took me to get her hair cut. And it was like pushing up right on when the game was going. And I was so mad at her. I was like, we need to get home for this. It was like we were cutting it real tight. And like she had to go furniture shopping. So like we were out that whole night. I was just stressed the whole time. And so she takes me to get a haircut, and she's like, and the hairdresser's like, oh, so you're not a big hockey fan, huh? And I was like, no, please, hurry this up. Like I need to get home. I was like, I'm absolutely a hockey fan. I'm here against my will. Please go as quick as you can. 2011 Bruins is my third pick.
There you go.
So
far,
I have the 18 Red Sox, 13 Red Sox, 2011 Bruins. Keegan, you have the 04 Red Sox, the Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl, and what is your third pick?
So I'm going to do Pat a favor. I'm going to take the 18 Patriots. I'll give him his wheelhouse back when he was, at peak fandom. But 18 for me, that was sophomore year of college. I moved back to Massachusetts a month later. I've never been to a parade still to this day because they just stopped winning championships when I moved back to Massachusetts. But that was like it was kind of like a countdown, that end of season playoff run where it was like, as soon as the Patriots over, I get to move back to Massachusetts. I hated living in Texas, if you haven't picked that up. But it was like a countdown, and it was every time they kept going, I was like, yes. Like, don't give me a 3-month stretch or a 2-month stretch where I don't get to go home like without any Patriots. We watched the Super Bowl at my cousin's house down in Texas, and it was like right when I started to learn a little bit about football, and I was able to, watch it with people who were like looking for my opinion on stuff, which was cool. Mm-hmm. And then just that's the last one they won, so it was it's super. I feel like it's super special to a lot of people because who knows when the next championship's going to be won, but. That was a big one for me. Good year.
Definitively the last Super Bowl that Tom Brady won the Patriots.
Right. I was 18 years old. There's no better.
College years is like the perfect time to have your team win championship.
Yeah. And that was, that you get that AFC Championship game, and that AFC Championship game was one hell of a game.
That's incredible.
That's dope.
I threw my that's awesome. I threw my hat at my TV, and I remember getting screamed at by my mom when Daniel Sorensen recovered the fumble.
Oh yeah.
Off Edelman, and then they showed the replay, and I was like, oh, he didn't touch it, and I was getting yelled at. I was like, shut up, he didn't touch it.
And then 2 plays later was the pick.
Yeah. All right. Pat, your
All right.
third and fourth picks. There's
So-
only 4 left on the board here.
Yeah.
You're gonna round out your squad here.
Oh, it's tough because I actually might. I think I'm gonna pass on. I think I'm gonna pass on the Patriots here. I think I'm gonna go the 2007 Red Sox.
Okay.
Forgotten championship.
The forgotten championship
Arguably the most dominant, second most dominant team of the
down 3 games to 1
So
to
good.
Cleveland, and then came back and won the ALCS and smoked them the last 3 games. I may add as well, and then obviously, they win 4-0 against Colorado.
Rockies unserious franchise.
My favorite story there is Dustin Pedroia. They're not letting him in Colorado, and they're like, "You can't come in." And he goes, "I'm Dustin Pedroia," and he goes, "Well, let me see some ID."
Right.
And he goes, "Why don't you ask Jeff fucking Francis? He knows who I am."
Yep.
And it was just like, "Oh god, dude!" So
That first pitch leadoff homer.
yep, unbelievable. So
Oh, I have a story. I broke my arm 2 days before the World Series started.
of course you did, yeah.
I was at a birthday party. I fell at the roller palace, and some kid like kicked my arm and it broke it.
Ooh,
Should have sued him. I'm pissed we didn't sue him. But
Yeah.
anyways, I'm in the hospital the next day, and my dad's best friend was visiting, and he walks in with Patriots tickets. 2007, it's when they played Washington. They beat them 52-7. So we went to that game, and then after he's like, "Oh, why don't we go out to a restaurant? We'll watch the Red Sox. It's the first game of the World Series." We go out to the restaurant. Who's there? Ray Bork. She's
my
a little kid
God,
with a
dude.
He's a little kid with a broken arm, walks up to me. He goes, "Hey, do you know who I am?" And my dad's like, "Holy shit." And I'm like, "I have no idea who you are." He's like, "Oh," my dad's like, "That's Ray Bork," and whatever. So he signs my cast. He eats one of my scallops wrapped in bacon.
Dude.
He popped on his mouth. I met him. I turn around. Dustin Pedroia hits a home run to lead off the World Series.
Unbelievable.
Greatest night of my 7-year-old life.
I would say so. Yeah,
That's insane.
It was. I don't know if I've ever told that story to anybody before, like on here, but I mean,
that's great. I haven't heard that.
All I needed is like Ray Allen to kiss me or something, and I would have had all 4. But it was awesome.
And
Pat, start off round. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll start with round 4, and it's tough for me because the last 2 Patriots Super Bowls obviously are both pretty memorable. I think the Panthers won more so than the Eagles won, but that Celtics team was so much freaking fun, dude.
rat.
Oh my god,
Yep.
they were just so KG and Pierce and Ray Allen and James Posey and Eddie House and Rondo. Like, man, that team was so much fun, and KG was just an absolute monster. And Pierce going back to back with going head to head against Kobe and them going back and forth was so dope. So I have to choose a Celtics.
I was hoping you guys were going to lean Patriots because the 08 Celtics was directly behind the 11 Bruins on my list, and it would have been the best value of my board if they fell to me.
I almost went Panthers over. I almost went Panthers Super Bowl over the 07 Red Sox.
The only reason they weren't higher is because I forever feel like a fraud because I was like 6th grade then, and in the clinching game, I was still 11, so I was still staying up late was a little bit of a struggle still, and it was in LA, so it was a late game. Yep. And I at halftime fell asleep and woke up with like 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter after it was pretty much a formality at that point.
Over.
Yeah. And so I forever feel like a tiny bit of a fraud because of that. It's the only reason that's low. It wasn't like top 5 on my list.
That was going to be my pick.
That year was the first game that's not true. But I went to a Celtics game that year when they played the Timberwolves, all the old Celtics, and KG knocked the ball away at the buzzer. It was like a 2-point game. Timberwolves had the ball. KG knocks it away and falls on the floor and covers it up as time expires and gets up and starts pounding his chest.
It's when he did the thing with the Celtics and the camera.
One of my favorite moments from that series or from that playoff run was in the Hawks series. Leon Poe made this ridiculous play, and KG just got on top of him and just punching him in the chest, screaming in his face. Like, it's one of my favorite Celtics moments of all time.
Also, Leon Poe is one of my all-time favorite Celtics.
He was so good.
Was it Game 5 that was the massive comeback?
Yeah, because they won in 6. They just blew them out in 6.
Right? Yeah.
And
so Game 5, as the comeback was starting, Ray Allen had this play that is just etched into my memory, where he gets the ball in the corner for 3, and he does a little pump fake. Time's running out, gets the pump fake, goes underneath, and he goes a little up and under reverse layup. And it was just something like Ray Allen. He's a shooter. Like I didn't see him do. You don't see him do that. And it was just the sickest play to me.
Yeah. It was like around Pau Gasol too.
Yeah.
Like when Pau, that was like he was an all NBA player that year.
That was very good.
I went to my first Celtics game that year. It was against the Rockets. Kevin McHale was the Rockets coach, and he had just coached KG, and him and KG were like still best friends. But he always shit on Ray Allen for some reason, and they're down by 1, whatever, with like 5 seconds left, and Rondo did the little fake and then passed it to Ray Allen in the corner. Allen hit the 3 with time and just stared in Kevin McHale's face and was like, fuck you. Like, this is for you. It was awesome. That was his first game I ever went to, buzzer beater. So I'll move on.
Good.
Sorry.
All right, Keegan, which Super Bowl are you taking here, and which one are you leaving me with?
I'll take 03. I don't remember either. I was too young, but looking back, I've watched the Panthers game in full a few times just because it's such a good football game. So it's like a defensive struggle, and then all of a sudden they're scoring points at will. I think that's my favorite team out of the early 2000s teams with the players. Like that was Harrison's first year. Richard Seymour, that might be his best year of his career. He was so good that year. Yep. It was just such a good team. That was Ty Law's last real one because 04 he was hurt. Yeah. So such a good defense. Brady actually did something in that game. He didn't just dink and dunk, and like he was really good in that game. So
it's one of the most underrated Super Bowls of all time. I mean,
second half absolutely insane.
Yeah. The lead changes and stuff were wild, and no points scored in the first. 0 points scored in the first or third quarters by either team. Yep, it's outrageous.
Was it not Jonathan Stewart, not Williams?
Deshaun Foster.
Yeah, Deshaun
Foster. Yes, I remembered that from the trivia. Yeah. Deshaun Foster.
So that leaves me with Patriots over the Eagles, which I had ahead of Panthers just because I remember it a tiny bit better. That was like right on the fringe. I remember the first Super Bowl, the one that started everything, because I remember watching it and then getting put to bed at halftime because I was like 5.
Yeah.
But I watched the Patriots Panthers and Patriots Eagles ones in full. I remember them. I remember the Eagles ones better. And Corey Dillon was my favorite player at the time, so having him gives the edge to the Eagles. So I'm happy with getting the Eagles here.
It also made them a dynasty,
right?
Because they had won 3 out of 4.
Yep. So happy with
Teddy
that.
Bruschi on the field with his kids before the game. All-time clip.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just hanging out. Like, what a cool thing.
And now we are going to fly through trivia because I knew this was going to be a long show. I kind of planned it to be a longer one because it was a bye week. But this, we had the late start. It's going long. So we're gonna get right into trivia now. We're gonna kind of fly through. I'm not gonna do the general coin flip. I'm gonna stick with the order here if that's okay with you guys. So Keegan and Pat. I'm not gonna pull up the timer either. I'm just gonna kind of try to keep you guys moving along here a little bit. It's unfortunate we've reached this point because this has big implications. The winner of tonight's show gets the first seed, and they will play little teaser for next week. It's gonna be Spags versus Brian. Not necessarily. If Spags beats Brian next week, Brian falls to the 4 seed because Spags has a better points per game, or they have the same points per game right now. So if Spags wins, they'd have the same amount of wins, and Spags would have better points per game.
Yep.
So similar situation here where Keegan's a game back, but he has better points per game. So if he wins here, he takes the 1 seed from Pat. Pat needs to win to hang on to it. So we'll get right into
25 points through 5 games. I mean, come on.
That's
I read the article.
Yep.
I'm killing people.
Pat's having a great season as well. Spags really is putting on a decent showing too. Audience killing it too. It's been a fun season of trivia. So here's how this one works. It's a little bit different.
Keegan, make sure you're private chat. Because I forgot.
I
almost forgot last time.
I can't imagine anyone's hanging around who doesn't watch the show at this point, so I'm not going to recap the rules. But it is a little bit different this week because it's a bye week. There's no matchup for round 1, and there's no opponent for round 3. So I had each of the guys give me a category, like a niche pick, and those are going to be the first 2 rounds here. So Keegan's first pick,
I'm very worried.
Keegan's category pick was the 2021 Red Sox. So that's going to start us off tonight. Keegan, you'll go first. Pat, you'll go second. Keegan, start us off here. 2 hitters had more than 30 home runs and more than 30 doubles this year. Rafael Devers and who?
I don't think JD got to 30. So Hunter Renfrow, final answer.
That is correct. It was Hunter Renfrow.
That was going to be my guess. That was going to be my guess.
Martinez had 28 home runs, I believe.
Yep.
He led the MLB in doubles.
I had no idea, but that was
I
going
had
to
to
be my
explain
guess.
to Pat why we traded Hunter Renfrow away.
He did. I was like, why did we trade him? Because I feel like he was pretty good.
He's. I'll spare us. I'll spare us the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the trade. Is the short
Same.
and get Seiya Suzuki.
And me too now, because that was explained to me.
Because I explained it, yeah.
Pat, Keegan's right on the board.
Not
Keegan
great.
did indicate the general consensus was that Pat's category plays to Keegan a little better than Keegan's played to Pat. So this is a
Yeah,
big
but
question
it's,
here.
I mean,
We'll see.
I don't know, because I'm
I'll be honest too. I think the MCU questions were a little easy because I was struggling with it. So we'll see.
good.
We'll see where we get. All right, Pat, let's keep pace. 3 hitters had a batting average over 280 this season for the Red Sox, obviously. Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, and who?
Bogarts, GD.
I know it, by the way.
I'm sure, obviously you know it. 280. I don't know. It's wrong. I'm just gonna say Devers. Final answer.
That is incorrect. Keegan for a 2-0 lead in the category sweep.
I believe Devers was close, but it's Alex Verdugo, and trade him, please.
I
Get
can't
him off
believe
my
it's
baseball
Verdugo.
team.
I specifically said it's not Verdugo. God
Final
damn.
answer?
Yeah, final answer.
It is Alex Verdugo. I like Alex. I like Alex Verdugo, the player. Questionable. I have no takes on his off-field stuff.
Me and my buddy.
I'm fine with it. I said one of Verdugo and Renfroe needed to go, and Renfroe's gone, so I'm fine with keeping Verdugo.
I was in between pickup games at the rec center yesterday with my buddy, and we were literally looking at Alex Verdugo stats because we were trying to figure out who a good compensation for him would be. So
that's
sorry.
Unfortunate for Pat there. Alex Verdugo had a good season. I think he's fine.
I almost
He's
said Verdugo.
He's
and I
not
was
someone
like,
I'm
nah,
going to be
no way
upset
that
if they
can be
trade
right.
away, but I think he's a good locker room guy. Loves
the
Boston.
worst defender on the team. Terrible defense.
You throw him in left field, he's fine.
Ugh.
Anyway, all right, round 2. 2-0 score. Let me get the score updated here. 2-0. Pat's niche pick was the MCU. This is gonna be a big one. If Keegan can get his question, the game can get short pretty quickly here with 6 rounds. Keegan, take a 3-0 lead. Which MCU movie started phase 2 of the MCU by release date? Obviously, there's the timeline in the movies differ a little bit, but what was the movie release date that started phase 2?
I literally have the picture saved in my phone, and I can't remember because I can never remember when the movies came out and what order they are chronologically. I have both pictures in my phone. I have no idea. I'm not even going to give an answer. I have no clue.
You're just going to immediate pass?
Yeah,
All right.
couldn't
Pat,
even guess.
I'm going to, again, I don't have a timer up this show. I'm going to give you 10-ish seconds, though, to steal.
Iron Man 3. Final answer.
Final answer. That is a massive steal for
Let's
Pat.
go.
That is Iron Man 3 kicked it off, and now he has a chance to go. We'll go.
I knew
niche round,
Iron Man
double
1
steals.
kicked off everything, but
Yeah.
that's
It was
about
Avengers.
all.
Avengers ended phase 1. Iron Man 3 was the first movie after Avengers.
Yes, it was. And Pat, to go back-to-back sweeps in the niche category and tie this game up, which movie ended phase 2? Again, by release date.
I'm gonna go with Age of Ultron. Final answer.
That is incorrect.
Incorrect, yep.
Keegan for the steal to take a 3-1 lead.
Black Panther's too late. What came out before Black Panther, Pat? Give me.
Age of Ultron came out before Black Panther.
No, those are like way far apart.
Well, I mean, you just said before Black Panther. It came out before Black Panther.
Keegan, I'll name the answer in 5, 4, 3.
Thor 2.
Final answer? I'm gonna need it
Dark
anyway.
World or whatever.
That
That
is
movie sucks.
Incorrect.
Sure does.
Correct answer is Ant-Man.
Phase 2?
That ended phase 2, huh?
I feel like Ant-Man came out last year.
No, Ant-Man came out in 2015, I think.
Yeah.
Really?
Ant-Man ended phase 2. Spider-Man, the most recent Spider-Man, obviously one's coming out, but the most recent Spider-Man
Far From Home
ended
phase 3.
right after Infinity War and
I got
Endgame.
tickets. I got tickets next Friday night.
Nice.
So do I.
So excited.
Wait.
Yep, Ant-Man ended phase 2, so the score is still 2-1. Well, let me update round 3 here, and then we'll move on. Also, talking about Thor, I think Thor 1 is a little underrated, but I'm with you. Thor 2 sucked.
Thor
Thor
2's
2 was
terrible.
Yeah.
Thor
Thor
1's
2
definitely underrated.
I think
You're
Thor
right.
2. I think Thor 1 was underrated, but Thor 2, I'm fully with you. Terrible.
Ragnarok's
Round
the
3.
best out of the 3 by far.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's not
inarguable.
Ragnarok's a top 5 MCU movie.
I agree.
Round 3.
Shout out
is,
Waikata TT. Very good. Sorry. Continue.
My dog.
Round 3 is Tom Brady. Shout out Jojo Rabbit while we're shouting him out. Round 3 is Tom Brady. Category is Tom Brady. Keegan, to take a 3-1 lead. Who is the only AFC team with a record of 500 or better against Tom Brady?
It's Jake Plummer and the Denver Broncos. Final
Final answer?
answer.
That is correct.
That's
Keegan
an
takes
easy
it
one.
3-1.
That is.
I hope I get an easy one as easy as that.
Shout out Jake Plummer, who I think
Sheesh.
beat him twice. What a ridiculous thing.
Pat,
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna go into my notes here, but I decided it might ruin the integrity of the next question, so I'm gonna
Okay.
save it all for the end.
Do it.
4 teams have never beaten Tom Brady. Which team is an NFC team has he beaten the most without losing? So an
4
NFC
teams
team
have
he is.
never beaten Brady. Which team that plays in the NFC has he beaten the most without losing?
So I'm gonna re-question this because I realized that I have kind of the tenses flipped here. Tom Brady is undefeated against 4 teams. Which of those 4 teams?
Oh,
Has
so
he
you're
won
saying Tom Brady's undefeated against 4?
Yes.
Got it. Which one has he
Yeah,
beaten the
this
most?
is a poorly worded question. I'm going to give some time to fully clarify it.
Yeah,
He is.
I got you.
Tom Brady is undefeated against 4 teams. The team that he has beaten the most without losing to plays in the NFC. Which team is that?
Got it. Okay, that makes sense now.
Now your time starts.
Now I got it. I'm gonna go. I don't think they've ever lost them, and it would make sense that it would be the one. So I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Falcons. Final answer.
Oh, that is a good final answer.
Bam.
This is the Atlanta
They
Falcons.
showed that stat this
Yes.
week. I remember seeing it.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Well, I just
Yeah.
figured it had to be in the NFC South because he's played
Right.
them the most since he got there. He's lost against New Orleans and he's lost against Carolina, so it's got to be Atlanta.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the notes that I have, he is 9-9 in his career against Denver. The other 500 teams, he doesn't have a losing record against anyone. He is 9-9 against Denver. He is 1-1 against the Cardinals, and he is 2-2 against the Seahawks. These include playoffs.
1-1 against the Cardinals. That's so stupid.
And then for the
That
teams
weird
he's never
Larry
lost
Fitzgerald game.
To, the teams he's
Steven
never lost
Gostkowski
to,
missed like 4 field goals.
sure did. The teams he's never lost to are the Atlanta Falcons. He's 10-0 against them, including playoffs. He is 6-0 against the Cowboys, 6-0 against the
Cowboys.
Vikings, and 1-0 against the Patriots.
I think Coach Vass tweeted like Tom Brady actively tries to lose against the Falcons. He just physically can't. Like he tries. He
I knew he was undefeated against the Cowboys too, but
yeah.
But again, like I said, it had to be
it was
NFC South.
It was good logic, good trivia work through there by you to keep the score close. It's a 3-2 game, and we have career paths. Career paths
I
is
love
round
these.
4. We are halfway through. Keegan has a 1-point lead to take a 2-point lead and guarantee you leave round 4 with the lead, Keegan.
Okay.
Which former wide receiver had this career path from 2003 to 2014? San Francisco, Washington, Chicago, Denver, St. Louis, now LA, obviously, New England, and then back to San Francisco.
Washington and Chicago are messing with me. 03 to 14. Brandon Lloyd, final answer.
That is a big final.
That was going to be my
answer.
guess.
It is
Son of a
Brandon
bitch.
Lloyd.
I had no idea he played for Chicago.
Yeah,
The
is
San
that-
Fran thing to me was I was like, it's got to be Brandon Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, front and back. I remember him.
and I knew he came from St. Louis. Those would have been the Chiefs.
Yeah, because he played with Josh. Because he played for Josh.
Yeah. You know what helped me was the years. So that was like Patriots. It had to have been like 2010, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to do a hardcore version of this question where I don't have the years, but I tried it and no one could get them.
That's got to be so difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I keep the years in for now.
Building
Pat,
players.
this is a big one. You got to keep pace. Keegan's good at this type of stuff, so he could be taking a 5-2 lead here if you don't get it. To keep pace, which former wide receiver had this career path from 2002 to 2012? New Orleans, Philadelphia, New England, Cleveland, Baltimore, Washington, New England.
Holy shit. Philadelphia. Boy. Dante Stallworth, final answer.
That is a big final answer.
go.
Aaron
Keeping
Brooks
pace,
to Dante Stallworth.
We are in a barn burner, folks. Round 5, 2 rounds left. We have a 4-3 game. Anyone's in the mix here.
Whew.
This is massive. Again, for 1 seed is on the line. The 1 seed is on the line.
Alex
The winner
Verdugo
of this
question
takes the
killing me.
1 seed
Killing me.
into the tournament. That was a big one. And maybe not being able to pull Ant-Man is another one of those two. You had to go your way there. Round 5, as always, is the Patriots. Keegan, this question is worded a little bit weirdly. This is a little bit of a stretch to make the theme fit here. So I'm gonna take my time with it. I want to make sure you understand, and then we'll start the timer.
Okay.
Outside of Tom Brady and core special teamers.
What the?
So
What a ridiculous question.
it is a ridiculous question. I acknowledge it. So
I'm sorry.
what we're looking for is what offensive player has played the most games for the Patriots since 2000. Tom Brady doesn't count. Essentially, Matthew Slater doesn't count. And the player is a former offensive lineman.
I just
It was
Poor
a
special
stretch.
teamers.
It was a stretch. I was a little short on time. I had an idea. It was a
I
little
got
bit of a
it.
stretch.
I got it. It's not that. I
get
got
the
it.
question.
No.
I understand.
Yeah.
You can start the timer.
Yep.
Logan Mankins, he never missed a game, right? Played on a torn ACL. Final answer.
That is incorrect. Pat, tie the game up and have a chance to take the lead in the next question.
Okay.
Got about 10
I don't
seconds.
know if it's going to be right or not, but I'm just going by years played. Matt Light, final answer.
Pat, we have a tie ball game.
Let's go.
Where's Matt Light?
Whew.
That is an excellent answer. Tie the game up, and now you have a chance to take the lead going into the final category.
Okay.
But Keegan, if he gets it wrong, you also will have.
Oh, Christ. Here we go.
All right, Pat. Similar question, much more straightforward. Didn't have the qualifications to jump through here.
Okay.
Of course.
Who has played the most games for a Patriots defensive player since 2000?
No Nate Ebner.
That's true. It's a good point. Can't
He played special
name.
teams.
Can't do Nate Ebner. Man. Shit. The question is, which one do I go with? I think this is not counting playoffs, right?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
The answer's the same either way.
All right.
I'm gonna need an answer in about 5.
I know. Teddy Bruschi, final answer.
That is incorrect. Keegan, for
Gonna
the
be the other
steal
guy.
and to maintain your lead.
It's gonna be the other
Devin
guy.
McCourty.
Final answer?
Can't believe it. Cannot believe I didn't say McCourty. You
Devin McCourty.
fucking
Decade
idiot.
plus.
It is Devin McCourty.
That's 12 years,
Idiot.
man.
It is
Well,
Devin McCourty.
He played. When didn't Bruschi retire in 13?
He retired in 08.
Yeah.
After 08.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God! What a friggin' idiot! No, wait, he had a stroke after 07, didn't he?
No, he had a stroke in 05.
in 05.
Oh my God! I've lost my
After
mind.
the Super
No
Bowl.
wonder why.
Yeah.
And he
Okay.
came back halfway through 05.
I was like, McCourty's too obvious. It's got to be. I was thinking he retired in 2012. What a moron!
And if we're thinking
Jeez.
trivia here, I didn't qualify former here.
What
Could have been a little hint.
what
that
a
might have been a
friggin'
player.
dummy!
Do you know who's in second?
No, I had the whole list up, just like
Might be-
defensive
it
and defense.
Could be
It
Vince.
it was obviously Brady, and then I think Slater second, and I think McCourty was third. It might have been Slater, McCourty. I'll try to pull it up on the side here.
Okay.
And,
I tried to get too
for
cute
half
with
the
it.
game.
I tried to get right away. I was like, oh, it's got to be McCourty, and then I was like, wait a second, can't be that easy. Then it was Devin McCourty, but it was.
I just thought I was thinking years.
Yeah, all
I
right.
didn't
I've
want
got
to
the
do
list
games and if they
All
got
right,
hurt.
so it's
Oh, that's what I was thinking too. But
Tom
then
Brady-
like I say,
Tom.
I was thinking.
For the record, it was regular season only, Pat.
doesn't
Bruce
matter.
Armstrong.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Wouldn't
Tom
matter.
Brady, 285. Again, this is since 2000.
Oh.
Stephen Gostkowski, 204. Matthew Slater, 202. Stephan Mccordy 184, and then Vince Wilfork 158, and then Matt Light was next at 155. Kevin Falk with 150.
Hightower's probably not up there. He's
Teddy
been hurt.
Bruschi was 12th at
Hurt too much.
127. Yeah, Hightower's. I don't even see him on the list actually. He's been hurt a bunch, and he skipped all last year.
Right.
No, there's no way.
All right, that's for the win, Keegan.
Anyway, yep. Keegan, you get this right. He's 20th. There he is.
What a dumb.
Oh,
Rob Gronkowski's 19th. All right, Keegan.
That's crazy.
You get this question right, and you have the 1 seed. You get it wrong, and Pat can rip off 2 in a row, and he has the 1 seed. Some other variation happens where Pat gets 1 point and Keegan gets 0, and we're going to our 3rd straight overtime, folks.
Congrats, Keegan.
As we cross the 2-hour mark here, the category, bit of a random one here, is bye week shenanigans. You have the bye week coming up here.
Okay.
So, Keegan, for the win and the 1 seed. Since 2000, including 2021, only one NFC team is in the top 5 for win percentage coming off of a bye. Which NFC East team is it?
Holy Christ.
It's not Washington.
1 to 4
They don't win enough. I don't think it's the Giants. The Dallas Cowboys, final answer.
Bro, if it's the Cowboys,
Can
if
you
it's
hear
the
me?
Cowboys, I'm gonna
Pat, you're
protest.
going to have a chance to tie up the game.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Ah,
it's the freaking
damn.
Cowboys for Christ's sake.
Incorrect.
Like,
Pat,
that's
to
completely
tie the
obvious.
game.
Shit.
To tie the game and give yourself a chance to win it in the final category, you have 10 seconds.
The Giants. Final answer.
That is incorrect.
Eagles.
The Eagles is Andy Reid. Andy Reid's the bye week king.
I know. I was thinking Tom Coughlin, but you're right, Andy Reid.
That's what I was
Oh,
going
I
to say
thought that
Tom
was a
Coughlin
lock.
because I
I
wanted
thought
you to answer
What an
Giants.
idiot.
Keegan even said no Washington, no Giants. And
Oh, I know what he said, but I was thinking I don't know.
Oh,
What an idiot.
I thought you had that one.
I did.
All right.
I did the same
That's
thing.
all right.
I did
That's
the
all right.
same thing I
You
did
get
with the
your-
McCourty thing.
You get your question.
Yeah.
You get your question. It doesn't matter.
There we go.
But that was a big missed opportunity here. It was the Eagles. Let me double check that this isn't. Yeah, this doesn't matter. The top 5 is Baltimore, Indy, who will be playing off a bye, Denver, New England, who will be coming off a bye, and then Philadelphia. New England and Philadelphia are tied for 4th. All right, Pat, you win. You get this right, it's going to overtime. You get it wrong, and you're the 2 seed. That's all it is.
Okay.
Similar question. Since 2000, including 2021, only one NFC team is in the bottom 5 for win percentage coming off a bye. That should say bye with me. Which NFC West team is it? You have 30 seconds.
Bottom 5 coming off a bye.
Yep. It's a big moment, folks.
Since 2000,
Since 2000, including 2021.
including 2021. Got it. Okay.
And the
Okay.
answer
I'm going to
in
go
10.
with the most logical one. Cardinals. Final answer. I think it's wrong, but
Folks, Keegan is your 1 seed. That is
Yes.
incorrect. Keegan
Is it
is
the
your 1
Rams?
seed. He seals the deal. It is not the Rams, although that was a good guess given how long they were bad for.
Yeah,
It
the
is
Rams
the San
stink.
Francisco 49ers.
man,
They
They kind of stunk. Too, for a while.
I couldn't say it at the time, Pat, but you not getting the Eagles hurt me because I knew that this was going to be a true toss up here.
what a dummy.
Is the bottom 5
What a
from
dummy.
32 up is Vegas, Cincinnati, San Francisco, New York Jets, and Jacksonville.
Yeah. Well,
Folks, Keegan's your 1 seed. That is the final score. Keegan wins 5-4, a barn burner.
friggin' choked. I
You have to
choked.
think. You have
Tip
to
my
think
hat.
that this is the favorite to be the championship matchup as it stands today. So you may be getting a rematch here. Anything can happen in the tournament.
Yeah.
Pat,
Ugh.
it was a game of blown opportunities for you, though. You had
Gross.
You had the Verdugo one. You didn't think it. You said it's not Verdugo, but you had.
I had the
chance there.
Verdugo one, the McCourty one.
Ant-Man one, McCourty.
Nah, Ant-Man one I
and
was never going to get.
Okay.
I was never
All
going
right.
to get the
All
Ant-Man
right.
one. So
then
that
you had
one,
McCourty
that
or
one's out.
Brewski, and then you had Eagles Giants.
Not saying McCourty was so dumb.
Missed
What are you
opportunity.
Yeah, that one I knew right away.
It was so stupid. I mean, that was like, it was so obvious. And I was like, it can't be that obvious.
And Keegan pulled it, so that flips the score right there. It would have been
Yeah.
5-4 Pat win. Keegan? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I had a couple that I was like, I don't know. Like the Stallworth one I knew after a minute, but if you would have asked me that question, I would have said I don't know, skip it. Because
having to come up with extra categories here was very difficult. I did not anticipate it. Writing trivia questions is hard.
Yeah, it seems like it. That bye week, I don't know how you came up with that bye week one. That's a really good.
Just because we're on the bye week.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a deep cut, the actual question.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Keegan, congrats on the 1 seed. You entered the season as the favorite here, the golden boy. Got taken out by Pat in the battle of the undefeateds, and then Pat held on, but you pull it back at the last second here. So Keegan will be your 1 seed, and next week we will have Brian versus Spags, and the loser of that will claim the 4 seed and take on Keegan. Not necessarily in the first matchup, but in the semifinal matchup. And then the winner of that will face Pat as the 2 seed. Fellas, it has been a pleasure. We are 2 hours into an already late show. We are 4 hours past the normal run time of the show here. So I appreciate everyone who's watched this entire time. I appreciate you guys for hanging out for so long. It was a fun one. I tried to keep it a little looser given the bye week.
It was good.
And the runtime reflects that. We had a lot of fun stories in there, though. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back to close out the Pick 6 Trivia Competition regular season next week with Brian and Spags. For Pat and for Keegan, I appreciate you guys all watching, and have a great night.
Night, guys.